time, just like whenever he felt like working.
Did your mom work outside the home as well?
Teaching.
Teacher.
Come on.
Must be Will.
Yes.
I'll take it. Wow. Oh my God.
What's your name?
Mick Neville.
Mick?
Yeah.
It's Will. It's Hampton.
Will?
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Hampton, hello. I'm Mary
Mary?
Schnur. Yeah.
Schnur?
Yeah.
Have we met before?
I've been at Thrive, so.
Okay, you look
TV there.
super familiar to me.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Very good.
And,
Emma, we have not met.
We have not.
Nice to meet you.
and I'm Sarah.
And Sarah?
Yes, nice to meet you.
What's...
Stockton.
Okay.
Therapist, and I'm a
Okay.
partner ministry down the street.
Very cool.
Yes.
Nice to meet you.
Did you drive up from Binghamton?
Yeah. I
Oh,
drove
God
up
bless
Wow.
It's a long haul.
Yep.
Long haul, and you got to drive back.
Well, from the nature of the
Yeah, it's not close.
Yes.
thing. Yes.
Well, thank you for dinner.
I'm half retired pastor at Crossroads Community Church out
Okay.
in Dango. And Matt and Liz Seal, who were at Thrive, are part of our leadership team on leading worship. And so, and I knew Ben when he was on staff up at Eastern Hills
Okay.
a little bit. So
Very cool.
that's my connection. And
Very good.
Emma was a teenager at Eastern Hills when I was on the staff up there. I think that's right, isn't it, Emma?
Yes. When did you leave?
I left there in '98.
It was child's.
So my youngest daughter is 2001 high school graduated in
I actually have seltzers out in the truck.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
If anybody wants
okay.
seltzer water
Did
instead
you have
of...
this for me? Oh, thank
Have
you.
you had sunscreen before?
No, I have not.
They're supposed to be like one of the best.
They're good.
This is a good pizza joint. This is-
Supposedly,
This is
yeah.
really
I mean,
good. Thank you very much.
yes, thank you. Oh, hot. It's hot.
And I
Yeah,
have to
literally,
pass.
like they brought it out of the oven to here.
I'll be here for marriage counseling.
You want anything?
No thanks. No thanks.
His wife and
We're
My
fine.
wife
Good,
has.
thank you.
I'm supposed to call her when I leave here, and she's going to have.
Thank you.
Yeah.
A meal ready for you.
And after 50 years of marriage, you learn not to violate that.
I don't know how you don't know how to eat
She'll
and
know
eat.
if I have a
Oh.
piece of pizza. She will know.
Just smell it on you.
Both the smell and the fact that I don't eat as much as I normally do.
It's great. Let's pray.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Jesus, thank you for this day. Thank you for this food. God, I ask your covering over this time. Be with us. Help us to have clarity. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Amen. So, Josh just called me. He has said that you had called him and that you were feeling like I lied to you about him not being able to be here for that. What's the...
What's the lie?
Yeah.
Because he told you yesterday that he didn't see a purpose of him coming to this meeting.
Yeah, and that he's got sick children. But he was coming. So in the sense of that, what's the lie?
You just told me on the phone that he told you this morning that he couldn't come.
This morning?
You told me when you called and you said Josh wasn't coming. You said this morning he told you that he had sick kids.
All right, so that's not, I just mixed up when that conversation took place, but
But it wasn't because he has sick kids. He says told you he didn't feel like there's a purpose of him being at this meeting.
I just talked to him and he's got sick kids.
Understand, but he's told me. Okay. All of us.
So I'm just trying to say.
He told us it wasn't because he had sick kids. It's
What-
because he didn't feel there's a purpose for him
So
to
I
be.
guess another question is why do you think that I'm here?
I don't know. You
What's-
asked for me.
So my hope was the last time we had talked, you had some issues with some of the people at Thrive, and some of the things that were going on. It felt very nebulous to me what the issues were and as a pastor could be done to resolve whatever the he said, she said were, specifically from a public sort of address to the whole congregation. That being said, I said, well, let me have a conversation with you and see if we can have more clarity around what the process has been like for you, having been the victim in this role, and then in that, of course, navigating all of the blowback of all of the other relationship issues that are taking place.
Mm-hmm.
Now, toward that end, I would like to have some clarity, like as a pastor, or what can be done is limited. That being said, I do want to help craft, going forward with Thrive, a culture that says, hey, the victim should not be excoriated, should not be made to be like you're the bad guy or you're the wrong person for doing the right thing. So that's my hope. I don't know that I can sort out all of the he said, she said stuff, but I do want to get your words and listen to you and what your experience has been, and then see if we can have some level of clarity around how I can address that. And part of Josh saying that he doesn't need to be there, I told him I would do the communications because he's so far removed from this in the sense that he's not there. So if he's saying I don't need to be there or what that is, Josh was going to be here.
He did not state that on the phone.
Well, I have communications with him that he was going to be here.
Okay.
He literally has a sick family, and he would be in a secondary seat to what this communication is. And I understand you asked for him to be here, and whatever that is, it's very unfortunate to a way to start this meeting. But my hope is that one, that you would feel heard, and then two, to create inside of Thrive City a real understanding that for what has happened in relationship to you and the relationships in the church. Again, that's a little complicated because who actually is in the church and who's where and what at this point is very up in the air. But moving forward, I do want to make sure that if there is something that we can do to navigate healing, we would want to try to do that. And then also to create a culture in the future where people understand this is the way things are. So that's my heart. That's why I called. That's my hope. I know the last time I had talked to you, it felt very unclear about what the objectives could be in terms of the relationships, and it was like, I don't know how to do what you're asking for.
Sure.
And so I left it for a little while and said, okay, let me come back and let's.
What role do you still have at Thrive?
I am currently helping assist Josh transitioning in as the
Lead pastor. May I ask a question? I'm out of curiosity because I only just learned tonight. Do you know who the current overseers are?
So overseers and board members are. So this is, I think, super confusing to people in the process of Thrive. What overseers are? Overseers are only. They're not trustees or board members.
No, that I understand.
Okay.
Let me rephrase my question just to help shorten the process.
Yeah.
Last I knew, Pastor Jordan, Pastor Brandon, Pastor Cyrus. Just found out tonight none of them are present. So I didn't know if there was anybody else currently filling that role outside yourself, Pastor Pierre.
I became the interim pastor.
Right.
And when that happened, all of the overseers resigned.
Oh, lucky you. Sorry.
So there's no overseers. In effect, I became the complete sort of leadership of the church in the sense that I became the new lead pastor.
Right.
Now, one of the things that's happening is Thrive has to, like, Ben was super negligent in terms of, like, having trustees, having,
A board of elders.
like, actual anything.
Right.
So all of that, I'm trying to walk with Josh, Pastor Josh, to help him get all of that established in this process of having proper governance, having a legitimate everything take place moving forward.
So at this time, I would say his current role at Thrive is an overseer and direction for Pastor Josh as he takes on the lead role.
I wouldn't say overseer, is probably more like influential voice, because
Sure.
it's essentially what overseer is. It's just I want to make sure no one gets
that
confused
name.
about what
Sure.
that means, because it sounds super like I'm in charge of things. I'm not in charge of things. Josh, so the way the Constitution and bylaws is set up is the pastor of the church is in charge of the church. That's the way that model works. And then trustees should be there to help provide financial accountability, but like all the decision making in the church would be the lead pastor of the church.
And who were the trustees? Did he have any?
He didn't have any.
Well, on the
on the
Constitution and
501
bylaws, there was one other trustee, I think, when they initially incorporated.
Because I mean, they had to legally.
Yeah, they had. I think it was Ben and then one other person, but I think that other person left the church.
Yeah.
Maybe as a pastor at a different church. I don't know
Okay.
all the details of what that is, but there's not that. There's
So
not.
can they be
a-
incorporated without trustees?
They've already received their incorporation. It's whether or not they can maintain.
So it's then having a new, like if someone left and then you replace them, I'm sure there's, plenty
I
of
think because they're
organizations just-
non-profit, they're receiving non-profit status.
Yeah, legally though they have a length of time. You'd have to look it up to see what it is for New York State, because I can't remember. It's different for each state. But they have a period of time to replace, because if they fire someone, there's a different period of time
Yeah.
as to when somebody resigns. I can't remember all those things, but that's okay.
It's not.
It just clarified your role better. Thank you for explaining that.
So then Josh will obtain his own overseers, and then within the church, he's going to have to get a hold of who is going to be his
He has to build a
trustees.
team of
You have
elders.
to probably correct the Constitution and bylaws, because the Constitution and bylaws are not.
Right now, the bylaws say that the board of elders are the ones that put the overseers in place.
Okay.
So in order for the church, technically according to the bylaws for Thrive, to put new overseers in place, he'd have to put a board of elders together first.
Okay.
So that is what you're currently trying to help him, not necessarily specifically a board of elders, but those kind of leadership
Yeah,
positions.
something's got
teams.
to take place.
Yes.
So, that being said, for what my hope is, some of also the last time we talked, some of my reservations were that Josh was supposed to be going through, or Ben was supposed to be going through a,
Restoration process.
yeah. And if I get some details murky from time to time, what's happened is a couple years ago I went deaf in my right ear, and it creates this, like, I get mental fog. So sometimes I say stuff and it's not quite exact to way, like earlier today, whatever. There's some
Sure.
times that it doesn't come out
Yeah.
exactly right. So point of that is that Ben, I think when we talked to Emma last, was in the process of, we were trying to do like a healing process with him. And Ben has, so there was hope, like I think I told you, we need to, like, Ben's counselors would need to help navigate the process of communication with you or whatever the thing would be, and I was waiting on their sort of voice in him.
No, you had, when we talked last, you said I'm no longer overseeing Ben. He is in regular counseling. The overseers have made a decision to part ways with Ben.
So that's probably the very last thing that we said. So in that, can you remind me of all this stuff? Because I know there's stuff that was
This
left
November
open-ended
1st.
the last time we talked.
So I'd asked if, pretty much if you could just provide maybe insight or a word or guidance to those who were maybe in like the dream team, like a dream team huddle of how to respond. And I had sent that September 25th. You were going on vacation, and then I hadn't heard anything, and I reached out again on November 1st and asked if you had any thoughts on that. A month later, to which you said Ben was gone. I said
What I say, Ben, at that point, Ben was no longer in the
restoration.
restoration process.
So that's where we left it. Was he was not in restoration.
So that's, I think, what I'm trying to pick up in the sense that, one, if the nature of what, so can you explain to me what it was that you were wanting to have happen?
Well, people were being awful. I mean, people were essentially saying, like, I have hoped you found community. It's not with us. And that's people that are still on your stage welcoming people to church every day, which is Thrive Stage. And you're saying that in this text last week that, the bad ones are gone, or the haters are gone. I don't know which haters, because your person giving announcements, which is Dana.
That's part of why I want to get some clarity.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's not gone. Dana said, I hope you found community. It's not with me.
Dana.
Dana and Jake Kittelberg.
Oh, okay.
Very sweet. You wouldn't expect it. I would not have expected that from her. Your first impressions director wore a shirt to a dinner with me that said, "No negative vibes allowed." That's hurtful.
Right.
This is very negative. This
Let me
is
say
awful.
one thing. Bring some clarity. What's her name? Amanda?
Amy.
First, Amy. She is the one who requested the meeting with you, right?
She found out that I was having dinner with someone else.
She found out that she was having dinner, asked to meet with her as well. And then, from Emma's standpoint, knowing the purpose behind going into this meeting with Amy, for Amy to wear that shirt, she felt was very intentional with the no negative vibes allowed. Like, you can come in here, but you can't come in with any of the bad stuff that happened at Thrive. Was very much the impression from someone who is the first impressions leader at Thrive at this current moment.
Are you upset with me? Because it's what it feels like.
I think you took on a role of leading this church when Ben left. And I think you had a responsibility to, when I had brought that stuff to you, that people were not being kind, to not address it until this point. We're 4 months in. If you want a statement, for what? To whom? Like, I don't understand. Like, this could have been dealt with the people who are very much connected to this original situation. You now have so many more people there that don't even know who I am. This could have been handled months ago when people, like, hey, this has happened. This is how we don't treat this person. That could have been done months ago.
Yeah, and I mean, I think I spoke to you once on the phone. I as a person who's, again, been a partner agency with you guys, meaning Thrive, and in the community, I see at least 10 members that go to your church as I'm their counselor. And I mean, I have written statements from a couple of them that would, if you want, about why they no longer feel like this is the place that God is and where they could be. But for example, Jonathan, your worship leader, was very inappropriate when I met with him when I saw him in person, and then he told your leadership team. Little did he know your leadership team. Yeah, I'm their counselor still. That Alicia was sending spies to spy on them. So he's calling me a spy to people that are in your church.
You mean Emma was
Oh,
sending
no,
spies?
no, Alicia.
Alicia.
Is that funny?
Yeah. So this is where it gets even more
Weird.
weird around what's going on, and that person is no longer at Thrive because they don't feel comfortable that that's the language. So as a person who, again, I work in churches, my primary focus is sexual indiscretion. That's what I work and focus most on. It's a little sad that, like, you guys didn't bring in a safe sanctuary scenario, or that Jonathan that the culture would be calling anyone like a spy, or there's still any sort of, this is still a very, let's hide this, there is sides, we're going against, we are team Alicia or team Emma. That coming from leadership is very concerning.
Just trying to record some of what you're saying so that I can, 'cause
Yeah.
I'll not be able to remember.
Absolutely.
May I make a statement, not necessarily on your behalf, but on behalf of the church? We want to make sure we're acknowledging the term leadership very loosely.
Yeah.
Because these are people, they weren't really appointed to these roles. They were kind of...
But they're calling themselves it.
Well, I get it. Because
Yeah,
Jonathan was.
Hold on, well, they weren't appointed to it out of this is a good fit for you. It was out of need. So, and unfortunately, they're still in that role because of the need. And the bigger concern now is that if they remain in that role, that we address the culture of what's happening for the purpose of the fact that they do present as a leadership team to anyone who's new, because they don't understand how they got to those positions, right? So knowing that for anybody coming in, they are presenting as leadership of Thrive, and understanding that this is some of what's happening out of those people presenting in those roles. That's the concern, is to make sure that we can address that, which I think is what you've said your intention is to do.
Yeah.
Emma's concern is legit, like, unfortunately, and I'm sure if you could go back 2-3 months, you're realizing, yeah, I could have addressed it sooner.
Listen, this is 100% not an ideal anything.
Right.
In terms,
It's the nature of these kind of events. Yeah.
so the ability for me to sort of go into that just was unclear. It felt unclear. Emma.
To do what?
What you just said sounded way more clear now than when we had talked or texted or whatever. It just, we didn't have good, there wasn't.
Well, you had
in a
Jordan
sense.
telling her to shut up too. So just
Who?
want
Pastor Jordan.
Pastor Jordan.
And unfortunately, Emma's journey along this process
Yeah.
has been very rough with overseers, obviously with Pastor Ben, and then with overseer who was supposed to take care of it, and Pastor Brandon was amazing.
But he just
But then
he just stopped texting.
unfortunately, he just kind of dipped out without communicating why. He stepped down and then just kind of stepped back off of Emma, which brings a different wound.
I mean, essentially, I
and
was
then
told I was sending if I spoke on this from your overseer board.
From the overseer board for Thrive that you were filling in interim for. And then unfortunately, as the interim pastor, where even though the intention was probably, I'm sure your intention was not to just shove her off, but when you have all of this other stuff leading up to it, and it seemed like the person who's in the role to oversee at this point as an interim pastor didn't seem to want to deal with it either, builds on top of it.
Yeah.
And then you're dealing with that, yes.
Right.
So then you're dealing with that on top of still
Yes.
dealing with some of the people
I mean,
who
you
are
have
presenting.
I
Like,
feel
if
something-
that's a
Hold
victim.
on. You're also compiling with several people who are presenting as leadership roles still being very unkind and hurtful. for something that was not your fault. You
Right.
walked in on a situation that you
Out of anyone,
had no
I should have been
control of.
protected at this church.
And it's
And
you
that was
weren't.
never happened. That never happened at any level.
At any
and even
point.
coming in, your job should have been basic level, protect the person who was kind enough to come forward and share this.
I
and
don't-
I was not.
So
I don't know. We gotta ask
where
him
that was challenging
how much
was,
he even knew about you.
You knew.
Yeah.
How far in?
Well, this is our first
How
time
far
meeting.
in?
Sure, we've had phone. You knew that it was me.
Yeah,
We've
no,
had
we
phone.
talked, but part of that's a little like in the way to protect you, in the sense of like you weren't in the church.
But I told you your
anymore.
leadership
And-
was not being kind. I had those conversations with you. And then so I said, could you address it in a small setting of like a dream team, that this is not how we treat people who come forward with really hard things that happen to them. And you haven't.
And I think maybe that also was blended in with the conversation of having Ben do some type of public. And Ben has never been willing to do a public
Statement.
statement of any kind.
Acknowledgement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so,
So that's on you guys to do it then.
well, part of that is there's a time process, and I understand from your perspective as we're listening to it that you're saying that needed to happen, but I just want you to know there was, to me, the level of what you're asking for, what you were asking for, and I'm not saying I did an amazing job.
But did you ever have any conversations with members of Thrive on how to address people who come forward with stuff?
That's not happened yet.
Correct.
Yes.
And wouldn't that be a really important process in the very beginning of a trauma
I don't
situation?
think so.
You don't think it's important in the beginning of a traumatic situation?
At that point, by the time I got involved, I'll tell you my line of
You were there
reasoning.
the first night when everyone found out.
I was. Yes. So here's my line of reasoning. This is my first time being involved in any of it.
Did you know about the extra pictures that was taken of Emma?
No, I don't know anything about
He
that.
doesn't know that. Okay. Because, I mean, I just think
What's-
what you might
what's
not
happening with that?
understand is, I mean, sometimes I think what's really tricky about what we're talking about is, I think potentially, I mean, what she came forward with is just what we know of Ben, right? So there was a lot more things going on. Ben had cameras around the church and took pictures and sent them to her of herself. The likelihood that this is the only thing that Ben has ever done, I would say based on my history, is very small. So,
May I just interrupt briefly?
yes.
Because when you say took pictures and sent them to her, it's very broad.
Yep.
It leaves
Just
a
have
lot.
myself.
Well, I'm just saying it leaves a lot for the imagination. So let's just clarify
Yep.
exactly
In a
what
closet.
happened.
Yep.
What was when the pictures were taken
He
and
wanted
they
to let her know.
sent? What was the purpose of taking the pictures
I'm
and why were
watching
they
you.
sent?
He let her know he was watching her. From the
It was like,
closet.
hey, I'm watching you in the closet.
Yes.
And
Yep.
it was just a random Tuesday, Wednesday, nothing particularly happened.
After the
And this happened after
After
the
It was
fact.
like on a security camera.
Yeah, he had.
In the
There was a
closets.
few security cameras all around the church.
And
Motion
was that,
activated.
like,
I'm pretty sure they
Supposed to be
were.
like a funny thing, or
It's
Well-
not really funny when you're saying that you were surprised that I'm in your building and I'm walking in and you're purposefully exposing yourself to me from your desk.
Oh, this is after the exposure.
so.
Yes.
So you're saying you're saying Ben purposely exposed himself?
I
to
don't.
you?
I'm saying
Well-
if he knows I'm in the building all the time, this is what he's sending me pictures of myself afterwards. How did you not know I was in the building the day that you did this? And you're sitting at a desk. Would you know Ben's office before? Maybe I don't know. I mean,
No,
desk.
his office was over in
Right,
the
so
other
desk-
building. when I-
Yeah.
Doorway's right there, pretty much the same distance. Desk with a front place on it. I walk in. He walks towards me, undressed, almost to
He
that
didn't have to
doorway.
get up.
Okay. Let me declare. Let me help.
So
you
that's
with some
kind of
clarity.
new, because
Right, because no one
Yeah.
asked me.
So,
no one's asked me
When,
anything.
you know the office upstairs that has the bathroom in it, on the main level.
It's not an office anymore. It's a
It's
kid's
Oh.
space.
The kids' space that has the bathroom in it. That was
in the
Ben's
back
office.
there's a back.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
His desk faced the door, and there was a security camera that points right at that door from the outside. So what she's saying is when she's in the building, there's multiple security cameras that have been activated at this point. When
knows.
she walked in, he's in front of his computer. He seemed surprised to see her, and he stood up immediately, fully exposed, walking towards her while pulling his pants up.
No one's ever.
Right, but no one's asked.
So when you.
This is something. Sorry, I didn't mean to
Yeah.
interrupt you, but this is something that Pastor Jordan did know,
Yes.
which is what was creating some of the issues. Was
So
how much information
you
was
think
actually
that
shared
Pastor
with the
Jordan
overseers.
knew? Because it's never. I've never.
He did know. She was in a meeting with him and Pastor Ben and shared this with him
So
directly.
he knew that. Because, well, let me back that up.
Sure.
What my level of surprise is, because in this entire thing, I've never heard from you. You didn't explain that to me that way.
We've not had a conversation about this.
We talked on the phone.
Right, but I mean, I didn't go into. I don't know who you are. I'm not. I like.
Well, so, but you're excoriating me a little bit, and I'll
Okay,
receive it for
I'm gonna just go to the bathroom. You guys can keep going.
for saying like
I'll just hold on.
I didn't do enough or whatever in the sense of, and I asked you, Emma.
Stop talking to me.
Well, so I asked her on the phone. I said, hey, it sounds almost like you're more upset about the way that people have treated you since this than the initial interaction, because that was like a year prior. And she said, yes, I'm more upset about what these others are doing, and that wasn't that big a deal. So when she's saying now that he purposefully exposed himself to her, which is a totally different thing than the picture of someone who,
Got caught in an act.
yes, that's 100%
And he takes
different.
pictures, and it's a lot bigger than.
Well,
what
that's a
So
way
this
different
happened-
scenario than.
Let me just.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Let me-
either way.
Let me go a little timeline here. What happened initially was a he said, she said.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, because initially Ben denies it, right?
He denied. He denied, and it was just her word against his word if she went forward. And of course, she's in shock. I mean, I would
Yeah.
be shocked if I was in her shoes, and that, you know, what do I do? And personally, I probably would have left the church right that day. But that's not what she chose to do, and you can't hold that against her because, again, everybody would still be asking her, why are you leaving? You know, how could you leave our community? And then she'd be in the dilemma of, well, if I say what happened, it's his word and my word. If I don't, you know, so if she was put in a horrendous position,
There was.
then
So then
So did
Alicia
she
recommended me as a therapist to help.
So and Alicia's the.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So, and then the year later, I think, when she became aware of the situation of the hiring of the couple,
No, she didn't know about it.
Bill?
No one
Oh,
knows
she
that.
didn't know about it.
That happened in the
Because I don't
spring.
know them. I've never
Yeah.
met them.
Yeah.
But it's one of those like.
but
So
I still think there's a number of thoughts I have.
Yeah.
My church polity is quite different. We have elders who are equally authoritative with the pastor. And if the elders saw fit, they could recommend to the congregation could vote out the senior pastor. So there's none of this senior pastor is the only guy. It's a different structure.
Like the whole thing of this,
But
like
what-
that, what she just said would have changed a lot of stuff
right.
a long time ago. At
But-
least.
When
So-
she said it in the summertime, she apparently told Jordan
She did.
Like that?
I have,
Yes.
I have a lot more.
About what that
Let me give you a timeline, a little bit more. And this happened in like October, not this past year, the year before. And it was about 5 or 6 months later that Emma finally left the church. But in that 5-6 month process, there was a lot of those awkward interactions with Ben, almost where, like the taking the picture, hey, I'm watching you. It was almost like this. He's trying to make
testing.
Yeah, he's making light of the
Listen, I have
situation,
lost,
trying to joke.
Like, so for Ben,
At least that's the impression.
well, and without a doubt, Ben is duplicitous.
Yes.
Like there's a lot of stuff in the journey that has surfaced where he's playing two angles.
Yes.
He'll tell somebody one thing, and then he'll tell a different person
A different thing.
almost the same thing, but in a way that is designed to be.
Yes. So when she left the church, she left. They all could. Ben
And
even
that's
paid for her to
criminal
go to
what
a
Ben did.
conference. So when he stood
If-
up and exposed
yeah.
himself, I have to. I'm gonna always be devil's advocate. It's kind of my role right now. But whether or not he wanted to expose himself to her, we don't know his intention. All we know is he seemed shocked, and this is what she told me when she told me about it. He seemed genuinely shocked. He stood up and came at her while still putting his pants on. So if that was his intention, was to expose himself to her, we don't know. But either way, he did it. And then when she met with Pastor Jordan, her other pastor, Pastor Ben, when even that meeting was asked to be requested, Pastor Jordan told Pastor Ben, there's a member of your church, this is what they said happened. He goes, I know exactly, Pastor Ben's words were, I know exactly who you're talking about. That's not how it happened. Let's meet. And then they're in the meeting. Jordan insists on her going first, which she was like, I'm not comfortable with that because, what's the purpose? It was like, and Jordan was very much protective of Ben instead of Thrive and the person who's coming forward with, it was more of a bro protecting bro than it seemed like an overseer protecting a ministry and a congregant of the ministry, while also stewarding the pastor he's supposed to be overseeing, right? In this meeting, Emma was very descriptive on everything. She held nothing back, and then was very much told not to talk about it after this meeting. She was told that she had reconciliation from this meeting, and when asked directly if other overseers would be brought into it, he told her and her pastor, who used to be at Thrive as well, that when he will decide, when he sees fit, but he will decide if he sees fit or when other overseers will be brought in, which of course is not even according to Thrive's bylaws as well. So all of that led to Emma contacting me after that point, which is how I actually got brought into it, was after that meeting.
Because Ben preached another Sunday.
Because
And we
he
still don't know
preached
about
that
Alicia
following
yet.
Sunday,
Yeah.
which we had a lot of concerns about. It was like, okay. Because after that meeting, I said, well, you don't really know how to move forward until we'll have to see what happens on Sunday.
And then what happened from there? Because
What
then he
happened from
removed
there?
he
he
then
didn't
got
remove
removed.
him.
And you came in at that point.
I
No,
got
No, this is, hold
No.
on, let me finish this for you. After that meeting that she had with him, I met with you 2 days after. You called me, we met up. That followed, then it was 3 days after that was Sunday. Ben was still on the pulpit.
so that
So that was the concern.
so there's a meeting with Jordan.
On a Tuesday.
Then
Where
Emma and
Sunday
I
Ben
met
preached.
on a Thursday. Ben preached on a Sunday. On that Sunday, there was no indication that he would be taking a break. There was no indication that he would be stepping down. And I said, okay, now we have something that we need to address. I said, because at that point, come Thursday, I was like, we don't know. Yes, Jordan did a horrible job at dealing with the situation in person because he was very callous, very cold, and very abrupt
Ben
with
had
her.
lied up until that
Ben
point.
lied also at that point. He didn't tell Jordan what he had done.
Well, in the middle of it, didn't he tell the truth?
Yeah.
Eventually.
so
So
this
once
is-
she said everything, or he actually shared it, and
Because I made him go first.
because he had to go first, he had to
In
be
this,
fully.
there's a second meeting.
No, in their
So
first
in the
meeting.
first meeting.
Yes. When she met with me and asked me, she told me what happened, asked me what to do because she was very concerned about the first meeting they had. I said, you can't do anything. I said, we have to wait till Sunday. I said, because you don't know what actions they took, you don't know who they met with. I said, there was still concern about how Jordan dealt with it, but we don't know what they were doing with Pastor Ben at that point. But when he was on the pulpit and had no intention on stepping down from what seemed to be, because there's no indication of that and nothing expressed, I called Pastor Jordan and asked to speak with him. Because at that time, Emma was no longer in the building as an attending, what did he call it, a seat holder? She was not currently a Thrive member. Neither was her pastors who were there with her, but I, however, am. So I have a right to address it at a level where he couldn't dismiss me. So I called him, asked to have a meeting, and he told me that they didn't have any intentions on removing him from the pulpit. I asked were the other overseers made aware, and at that point they were not. He was said that they were scheduled to have a meeting, but there was no intentions to remove Pastor Ben. And then
You went to Ben's house. on
I
Wednesday.
went to Ben's house on Wednesday because Emma was very upset, and at that point, her relationship with Pastor Alicia, which I'm only using that term just to make sure you understand who I'm speaking of, at that time, they were very good friends before she left the church. And at that time, as far as we knew, Alicia did not know. So she felt like she had the right to be able to reach out to her and tell her what happened, and also desire to for the purpose of restoration within their relationship. I went and met with Ben because it was supposed to be a first Wednesday, and I told him, I said, I have many concerns about how things are being dealt with. I said, I don't think this is a good choice. And Tina was there. I said, I have to speak with you because of what it pertains. I need your wife present. I told him the concerns. He told me that him and Jordan met, and Jordan asked him a series of questions, and that because him being caught masturbating in his office did not involve pornography or addiction, they did not feel it was that serious, and that he did not need to step down. And I said, I strongly disagree with you. This is not a good situation, and this is going to impact the entire church because it wasn't dealt with properly. Now everything's about to blow up.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I really think that we need to revisit this and what's about to happen. You need to be able to step away from the pulpit so that you can walk through counseling, and you and your wife need counseling because this is hugely impacting her. I said, and this is going to impact the church. I said, but if you can represent this church as a pastor who can walk through this process serving and not leading from the pulpit while your family goes through healing, and then you can take that place back again, we can see a church do this well, and we can see reconciliation happen. He dismissed me. I left. And he had no concerns. He said Alicia already knew, had no intentions on changing anything. He actually got kind of agitated with me, which didn't phrase me any, but 3 days later, we spoke
No, the next day.
The next day we spoke with Pastor Brandon. Pastor Brandon actually reached out and asked for Emma's number. He wanted to speak with her. I was on the phone call for that conversation. Pastor Brandon knew everything. She told him everything. And I was there for the whole call. He was shocked. There was a lot of it he didn't know either, because Jordan did not inform all of the overseers for that. So after that is when that following Sunday
Saturday, a message went out to the church
that we wouldn't be having
was
church
canceled on Sunday.
We had a meeting that Monday. And that's when you were there, Pastor Brandon was there, Pastor Cyrus was there. So
At that's
that
because
meeting-
Pastor Brandon called me.
yeah, at that
and
meeting
said,
that
"Hey,
Monday,
This church is
And that's when she
Gonna
finds
die.
out she unloads the Alicia thing too. I mean, right? Because
that's when
an
the
added
church
piece
found
to
out
this.
about Alicia and Phil's situation. So all of that to say, there's
so
been a
that was
lot
the powder
of
keg.
Yes.
And then
more stuff came because the people coming at you wasn't right away.
It was after Alicia.
It was after Alicia.
No one
and
knew.
Phil.
I kept my mouth shut.
No one knew. None of the overseers put her name out there. The only one who did know was Jen, right? And myself, obviously. Esther at that point.
As a
But
lawyer.
there were, which Esther can't even legally say her name because, and it's her friend, but, so, I say all of this to say
what do
that
you mean she can't legally say?
Because
I
she was-
technically hired her as my lawyer in this.
Esther's a
because
lawyer.
Because I
Esther's a
just
lawyer.
I didn't know what could I be,
Yeah, so when-
before the meeting with Jordan and Ben, could I be sued for defamation because I don't have any proof? I don't know, and she's like, no, you can come out as a witness, you're not publicly stating it, you're fine, you can say whatever
So
you
even
want.
though her and Esther are friends, the information that Esther received at that time was protected by
So
legal
for
purposes.
Ben, though, if he exposed himself purposefully,
Well, he didn't need to. Right.
There's a criminal.
Right.
There's
And
still a criminal
the police came to
behavior
me.
versus
The police came to me and said I could press charges, which I said I did not want to do.
Because the goal was
Yes.
restoration ultimately for the church, for
Yes.
Ben, for his family, for Emma.
That was like back in August.
So all that to say, everything leading up to you stepping in and then feeling like the ball is dropped as well, which obviously you did not know all the information. And, you know, we can still make bad choices even when we do know all the information and want to go back and change them. I get it. But then when we lead up to tonight's meeting as well, because I'm just going to put it all on the table just so you kind of have a better understanding. Walking into this meeting, and maybe if I misspeak, but I'm just going to try to communicate the best I understand for everyone involved. It was under the impression that you had reached out to Emma
I did.
on behalf of Josh so that he could help.
Not on behalf of
so
Josh.
that
Yeah.
and so that is what caused some of the confusion. And when you came up and said what you said, in my mind, some of those pieces linked. And I was like, that makes more sense.
Well, it said that you were going to read a statement to Thrive, and I just couldn't imagine saying that you would do that without Josh knowing.
I did tell Josh.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Right.
So,
So the
Can we also add in
For
the
me, it's I'm in
Reddit
the.
this
For
week?
me,
To
it
one
wasn't
second.
Josh.
right.
It's
I get
me
you're the one
saying,
initiating
I had
all
talked
of
to you
it.
on the phone
Right, you
a
want to
while
make it
ago,
right, yeah.
Yep.
and all the way back, and I said, Emma, I want for you to be able to go through this process and know, like, I'm for you. And so, yeah, I
You initiated this meeting for your purpose of trying to help Josh.
don't
moving forward.
believe that this is done in the sense of like I'm a father. I'm going to give you my priority structure, and I understand from your thing, but I'm very committed to my marriage, to my kids, my time for that. Then I'm the pastor of my church. I'm also the church planning director for upstate New York. I'm engaged in classes for a lot of stuff. Taking on Thrive
Sure.
is, and then the priority was I want to make sure, like, how terrible would it be? And I know it's not your heart because I talked to you. We talked on the phone, and your heart was not that Thrive would die, right? That Thrive should live on beyond what this is. There's people there that are hurting, and there's things going on in that. And so there's a lot of stuff. I haven't been paid a dime. I didn't take one penny from any of this. I'm not getting paid to do this. I didn't get paid. I never took a honorarium from Thrive. I've had my staff team digging out the finances of the church.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's a big mess. It's big mess. Not from you. It's from Ben.
You're saying there was a lot
I'm
of pieces.
unpacking tons of layers of stuff and trying to keep Thrive moving forward. So now we got Pastor Josh in. The holidays are over. My schedule's calmed down a little bit. And I'm praying to start the year and throughout the thing. And I'm praying for you. You're like, I'm not done praying for you. I'm in 21 days of prayer and fasting right now. And I've been praying for you. I'm praying for, it breaks my heart. And I understand, and I know you're upset, and there's so many things that are going on with that. But my heart is not here because I have to be here, or because I have to. We talked on the phone. I'm sitting on my front porch this past fall, and what's happened to you is wrong. And that breaks my heart because it's not Jesus. In the whole process, I don't know how to do it all. I can't do it all. I don't have all the ability to do some of the things that you guys have said already on the phone today in this meeting. I feel terrible. And I would like to make right as much as I can for your sake, for the sake of Thrive City, but really for the Lord.
Yes.
And that's my heart, that's my interest. You've been in the church world a long time, and it's ugly. There's some stuff that happens
Sure is.
behind the scenes because it's broken people everywhere, and I'm included.
In leadership,
And
out of leadership.
And so, Emma, I would like to listen. And that's what I'm trying to do. I want to listen. And maybe it's a day late and $1 short. And it stinks the way the meeting started. My hope is to do what I can, and that's my heart. That's why I'm here. That's what my interest level is. And I guess I'm trying to ask you to say, because I don't know, like along the way I've been trying to say, I don't know all the right stuff. I don't know. It's very confusing, and there's 1,000 different things that I'm trying to navigate. And to full disclosure, there's been some times that you've asked for some things that I felt like are more than what I could do or should do. And so that's been hard to navigate. And but I'm not, just because I do want to figure that out.
I think, first of all, by virtue of our conversation, and Mary, thank you for your great summary.
Yeah.
I think you have a lot better understanding of the realities, and light and truth are what set us free. And so I would say, when you sent the text that said, hey, maybe you could produce a statement that could be read to the congregation. Well, I think you can see by what's happened now, that's really not what's needed.
Yeah.
In my
for
opinion,
sure.
what's really
Yeah.
needed is for the church to really face itself on this.
Mhm.
That there needs to be light shown on. Here's what happened.
Yeah.
A sheep was assaulted by the shepherd that was trusting that shepherd. And because we all were so under the spell, I guess, of this shepherd,
Very
we
true.
treated that sheep as the problem.
Right.
And we need to understand what it takes for us as a congregation to recognize the potential for us to be destructive to one another, and to hold each other accountable, and to never question somebody, their integrity as a result of this. We need checks and balances in place. Our bylaws are good. They weren't being followed. And we as a leadership, interim pastor, new pastor, we've got to make sure we're following, so that even though a pastor is the spiritual leader, he's not above accountability. And internal accountability, not just accountability from Texas or Rochester or someplace, but internal accountability
that's what
with the
should be.
people that interact with them. And you know that. I'm sure
Yeah.
you have that in your
And
church.
that is
And I think
part of what I'm working with Josh for.
and I think that's what she
what
needs to hear.
your all of that you just
Yeah.
said very eloquently.
you're
I'm so
dealing-
glad it's
And
I'm
you're dealing with the mess that
Want
it
that out
creates
there.
when that's
Yeah.
not there.
yeah.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
Ben is a human
Mhm.
being, and he found we could either point at him, but when we create environments where there's no guardrails, as human beings, they're going to go outside the guardrails, and I think that the guardrails were not there for him internally, and apparently not externally very well.
He built for himself
I
a
get it.
100% lack of
Playground.
accountability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think there
The
needed
bylaws
to
are
be
not
closer
good. They need to be
follow-up
rewritten.
and things like that. And I think that
It was like there's a lot of competent people at Thrive,
Yeah.
and he didn't ask for any of them
No.
to come into
right.
Well, he did. That's
He
the-
had some.
That's
but
the funny thing. Ben did, and so we started around the same time when the building opened up. We went through 4 cycles of competent leaders that Ben cyclically pushed out every time he brought
Right,
accountability
so
and lied
you
to it.
know 'em out.
Which
Yeah.
at one point that the second round of leadership went to the overseers about it, and the overseers again took Ben's side on it, and they all left. And then it was my turn to be in
That's
leader.
not- That's not their role, though, for like inside of the church.
But there's no others, so they're.
Well, that was the thing that I'm trying to say. Is Ben never appointed trustees. He never
Right.
had a board, and that's what like. So the decision making in a church is not an overseer role.
No.
Well, with all
so-
due respect, didn't Jordan see online that he is making people pastors? I mean, that's not. I mean, I do want to say,
Say that
Ben.
again?
I mean, like
I didn't hear. I can't-
Ben. So Ben's online. Thrive is online. We're having dedications and we're making new pastors. You're telling me that only Ben knew that? I mean,
Yes, actually, Ben didn't get permission from the overseers. He lied about that.
but they saw that someone was.
You talking about Alicia and Phil?
Yeah.
Yeah, when they
Alicia.
were
Alicia was given
No,
a pastoral.
so what?
ordained
When I talked to
online.
Brandon, Ben has done a lot of like he's
Lying.
lied, and that's one of those like really overt lies. With the over so Ben was also being coached by Brandon, so it's different than like an overseer. So Ben's relationship with Brandon was that Brandon was trying to help the church grow.
Yeah.
But from like a leadership perspective, Brandon couldn't tell Ben what to do in the church. He could say, Ben, do this. And Ben didn't have to do anything.
Right.
But the
that Ben was-
bylaws say that the overseers can remove Ben from pastor.
Yes. If he's, and so they did. That's ultimately what
What they
happened.
did.
That Ben was,
But they could
Was-
also then remove Alicia if they had had a conversation with Alicia.
no, they couldn't remove a specific, they
You
couldn't,
can't remove a specific
they
person.
couldn't, they could only do that for the lead pastor,
Right.
not like pastoral staff.
Right.
So their role wouldn't be like down into the weeds of what's happening
Right.
in the decision making of the church. That should be the trustees
And the elders.
And even then, the trustees I think are limited in the Constitution and bylaws to like financial matters. And I think the decision making process inside of the church would be what Ben
Thrive bylaws. So, just your understanding of what the overseers are and what is a typical understanding of overseers is very accurate. However, what was communicated to Thrive, and which is what she's getting to, and why the other leaders
for
went
the
to
way
it.
Ben has
The way Ben
described
had
things.
set it up was that because, as a new church, there was not currently a board of trustees or a board of elders yet established, that was the role that the overseers were playing. So when she's saying that people went to the overseer, that was the purpose.
So
is
they're-
because
that-
they were
and they've been
currently supposed to be
deceived
playing that
about
role.
what
Right.
should be happening.
So they did have some say, but they had limited say because the role that they actually got to play was very limited based on what the bylaws and
So, like,
constitution
the
developed.
person who would have the most influence would have been Brandon in the sense that he's trying to help Ben
Yes.
coach him, but it would have been influence and not like.
Well, and it would have been a
oversight.
So you could
relationship
tell him
of
anything that he wanted.
Yeah, and that's
Right,
literally
but
what
it
happened.
would- had it been a
Brandon was
relationship
super
of
torqued
truth, and
about
it was not.
Yeah.
Alicia and Phil when he found that out. It was like, yeah, like
It's
'cause
illegal.
literally any pastor else other than like that's you're trying to burn the church down.
Yep.
You're just trying to burn it down at that point.
And even Pastor Brandon, right? So again, what was communicated was Pastor Brandon was Ben and Tina's immediate pastor, but also an overseer. So he wasn't just brought. It was never communicated that he was just a pastor or just a coach. So that's where it's like there's a lot of layers here that she's referring to, that within that makes sense because of how things were communicated and her understanding of it. Your understanding from an outside perspective of knowing how a church actually functions and the levels of what those limitations are. Some of the
Which makes a
bylaws
lot
are
of sense
not.
to me in this meeting because I've had to explain stuff to people over
Multiple
and over and
times.
over again.
Yes.
And it's not like
It's not connecting.
yeah.
Because unfortunately, the lens that the terminology was put through has been set. So now we have to try to help them relearn it.
Even to people being angry with the overseers, like the overseers have done something to Ben.
Yes.
It was like that.
That's what I've been
culture had-
communicated to. Like I've and some of the wording that both you and I don't know, I'm not I'm trying not to be mad or anything, but you and you and Josh and Jordan have all preached since Ben's left and have used the terminology Ben is a good man on stage. And so that's been communicated back to me from members of Thrive that I've heard a good man.
And when you compare that to the image of what happened,
Well, I
And-
think now, in hindsight, I would probably not.
Right, I know that, but I'm
Yeah,
saying
yeah,
yeah.
but that's what I'm
Yeah.
getting to witness because I'm paying attention right now because this affects my life.
Right.
That these are your guys' terminology matters to how these people are perceiving the situation.
So let me apologize to you. That and I think part of my heart there is I can make a corrective statement to that in the church
Yeah.
because everyone's been deceived
Right.
Yes.
and there's more going on than just and it's taking time to sort through the process of what that is to what like my eyes are becoming more and more open to how much
And we're talking about pictures.
because here's this person that
Can I ask you a
I was
question?
I helped Ben decide to plant a church.
He's very charismatic, so it's easy to like,
Yeah.
easy to.
No, just
I
wondering.
personally
I mean,
think
I
it's
think
awkward,
again, it's this weird thing of we're definitely here for Emma. I'm here for Emma, and I want to figure out a way where she is separate from it, or if she's going to be a part of it. She's determining her role right now. So we have in the last, I don't know how soon your text message to her was, but there was a Reddit thread about Thrive, and clients have reported that news outlets are reaching out. So news outlets obviously have a sense of there's
Church scandal.
there's church scandals going on.
they love that.
Yep, they love that. Like I said, I obviously am hearing things. Ben is a churched person in this community, as Emma's a church person, I would call them, meaning they've known each other since like young, they've grown up. Do you have an idea of why all of a sudden Thrive is coming to Reddit? Like, other than the new pastor being named, is there another concern?
I don't know anything about Reddit.
Well, I mean,
Okay.
the Reddit
Yes.
thread itself, I think, answers that question because I read it. The initial person who created that thread, which I don't know who it was, is they use a tag name, but that person themselves said, I follow Thrive from time to time because I was very intrigued by the pastor, and I've noticed that there's a sudden change. I'm rewording
not there
this.
anymore.
And he's not there. Does anybody know what's going on? And that's the nature of Reddit. I don't use it, but that's the nature of Reddit, is just to create this open forum to get information from as many people as possible. So it seems to me as though that thread was just struck up by someone who
you're-
genuinely wanted information
You're
and
trying to
tried to
figure
find out.
out for
So just for his
Emma,
context, that
if
thread
the
came
pa-
out,
if the
and then you
newspaper-
messaged her. So that just one, you don't know that. If you didn't know that you
no,
guys
I
on
don't know
Reddit.
anything about Reddit.
Yeah, so Reddit is
So-
up there, and you have Alicia just ramming you guys.
Well, again,
The
Thrive.
sex offender.
yes,
Thrive.
correct. Yes,
Sorry.
Yes, yes, yes.
He's like, let's just call it what it is.
Yes.
I mean, it's-
Yes.
And when that comes out, then somebody
Then
So
everyone sends
that's if that comes out, then again,
Emma's name was not there
What-
in the initial.
No,
What
not in the
needs
Reddit.
to-
Emma's
I
name
don't
is not in
follow.
Reddit at all.
oh, it's implied.
No, her name was not
Not a
mentioned in
name,
her
a
name.
Alicia-
person.
Alicia was mentioned, but nothing at all implied indicates. I know who it is, and I didn't get that from the Reddit reading at all,
Did you see the part of
unless it's been recently updated. I haven't read it recently.
I've written like this week.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm going to take a stance on your behalf, just in response to your answer. There's a certain level of communication Thrive cannot take ownership of or accountability to. Like, there, in the sense of if there's random people out on the social medias talking and texting about things, and there's no only tag names that we can't tie back to anyone, you can't address it from a leadership position outside of maybe your small nucleus leadership team, where you can say, hey guys, as a ministry leadership team, we want to be aware that this is what's out there. This is still what's being said. And we want to make sure that we are addressing this from a team, you know, uniformly, but also correctly. And coming back to what I think you initially stated at the beginning of this, having some kind of training on trauma response in a ministry is valuable. I'm guessing you don't have that under your belt because most pastors don't, honestly.
Yeah.
But being able to bring someone in to speak to how do we deal with a traumatic situation that happens in the church? And I know the word trauma is a buzzword and has been misused, but in the sense of how it impacts people, how do we address those who have been the victims? How do we address those who have been had the backlash or the waterfall effect of this, right?
And I think you're going to have to, you or Josh, at some point of, you, like, again, Mary told me not to, but I did it anyways. But I went back and listened to every one of Ben's sermons that's online. And if you go back and listen to it, these people have been lied to for years. And so, like, the members that are still there, who are specifically in leadership, but also who were there pre-August, right, have been lied to by their pastor. What does accountability look like? What does spiritual disciplines look like? What does purity look like? How do I treat my wife? How do I treat my family? What is the safe place of this church? Because he said all those things. And, like, unfortunately, that negates, his actions have now negated or brought confusion or things, I'm sure, to people's minds. Like, that's a retraining of, because Ben had lied and conditioned us on how to behave for too long.
So I think because this is still, and I think you just said it, and this is part of what I'm trying to get to, is like, you're trying to decide what's the way that Emma.
I just need to see action. That's all I want.
Forward.
I just want to see action.
You do want to see action.
I don't want to be part of your action, but I want you to
Right.
act.
Okay. So that's where I'm trying to get to. Like,
But I want to be able to see it. Like, I want to
you
be.
want to see, like,
I want to see that you do it. Like, if you're going to say you're going to do it, I want to see
Wants
it.
to see the
Yeah.
fruit of something actually being done.
So
I just don't want to hear that you're going to do something. I want to know you did it.
So like what you said, as a type of way of addressing in the church some version of what you said, because I've got it recorded here. And it's like really good. I can't remember now what you said, but I know, like, I'm in the fog.
Yeah.
But something like that. And then I think as you guys are talking, if you have other points, because you had talked about like doing a safe sanctuary thing, and you're talking about like the training for children's ministry and
just show me. Like, I can't send. I am with no good confidence could recommend Thrive yet without
so
knowing
we did
you
install
implemented.
there's a safety team, and everyone's been re-background checked.
Okay.
That's good.
Because
Great.
every single, like,
Awesome.
we're not having kids go into the environment when Phil and Alicia were responsible for background checks. Like, no. So we went through and we made every kid's worker
I'm sorry, they were responsible for the background checks as well?
So
I did not know that.
Ben tried to say they weren't, but I talked to other people, and that was happening.
That
She had
was-
taken on the,
Alicia wrote that on Reddit as well. Yeah.
that she was doing the,
Oh, Alicia, yes. Let
What?
you guys know that you guys hired sex. Oh yeah, she.
so.
Excellent. I haven't looked at
this in
Reddit
the
because I
same
can't
thread?
fit my
Like,
heart.
Yeah, it
smart
got
not
the
I
to
can't.
do
Yeah,
it.
stop.
I've actually listened at this point, but
So in that sense,
Yes.
we've done the basic, like, let's
Yeah.
see what else is going on here. But when you're saying safe sanctuary, do you mean, because there's a training that comes with sanctuary?
Correct. Yes.
Safe
That's what we.
sanctuary
Yes.
to run the children's workers through
Yes.
and that kind of thing. So they haven't. They were all background checked,
Yeah.
but the children's.
I will be really honest. I have a concern.
Worker.
Like, for example, and again, this is not totally valid, right? But it's just based on how someone says things, based on the fact that I know. Again, unfortunately, as a counselor, I'm having confidence, right? So I know that Jonathan has a girlfriend, but I also know my client sexts with him. So it's like, okay, this is the kind of stuff that goes on at Thrive, right? And we masturbate at Thrive. We take pictures of people at Thrive. We sex with people at Thrive. So it's just a little alarming around, like, and this is.
And these are people who are in key roles that definitely
Are out in the
That's not
community.
his fiance,
Well, I will say
girlfriend.
this: if the leader,
It was not.
It's not.
if
And
the
that's
leader
not-
is doing the things
Well,
that
even if it
Ken
was,
has
it's still
been
not
doing,
okay.
it's going to attract that kind of
Yes,
people.
if
to
you
work
if
with
you
it.
There's no
open up
victory,
your
there's no
your
victory.
place of worship for a spirit of perversion, it will take root, and it will draw those who operate under the
That's
same
what I mean.
spirit.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
This is a
I
spiritual
was
war.
required to make our small group leaders sign the
Leadership covenant.
leadership covenant that most Highland
Yeah, it's
churches
the
get.
sacred-
I mean, it's a PDF, right?
Yeah.
But like, I asked, well,
No,
are we going to
they live
also
according to that.
are we going to also have our worship leaders sign that? No, I don't care if they're not even a believer if they are playing on a Sunday. Like that was the atmosphere of.
So there is a. So one of the challenges is, like, to your point. So Jonathan, I didn't know that, right? That's a problem.
That's kind
That's
well.
not good.
Yeah, sure.
So, and Jonathan was helping me.
You called him pastor on stage.
Yeah.
I called him pastor.
You said Pastor Jonathan once. I know,
Pastor, but-
but I'm just
but-
saying, like, it kind of goes ick.
No,
Yeah.
It goes ick a
He's
little
not
bit.
pastor. So in that sense, he was super, like, I want to help lead, and no one said there was any. I actually had a meeting with all of the people who then became leaders, and one of the big conversations that we had was integrity. That there has to be, like, I made everybody fill out the integrity thing. We met at there's a horse ranch. What was
That was the Kittleburgers.
Kittleburgers. We met at the Kittleburgers, and it was like a big thing to talk about. Like, we gotta have integrity in the church,
Mm-hmm.
and especially the leadership team, because inside of a church, people are gonna come, and you know, like, stuff's happening, and it's buck wild
Yep.
because it's
Everybody
happening not in the church.
masturbates.
You heard
That's
that?
the meeting. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was quite a thing.
But to my stance, not at work, because I work in a professional office setting. It is in my contract that I do not masturbate at work. At least I can masturbate at home probably all I want,
Well,
but at least not at work. I mean, that's
what I
the
told Ben. I said,
Biblically
"Look, man,
speaking,
your house is right there.
because he was feeling a certain kind of way about, like, resigning. I was like, dude, the only reason you're not gone, however long ago this was that you got caught, is that you were the person that's supposed to have fired you. Because there's not a place in the world
No place.
that you can do that
That's what I said.
and
Continue to work.
there. You get
No.
your stuff that day
You'd
and
been
go.
escorted
That's
out
not-
of the
But
building.
no, he came out to intimidate me to see if I was willing to speak.
Well, he sat in the office. She went back out, and he it was like 20 minutes later.
20 minutes later,
He walked out, kind of like, "Oh, hey, Emma," kind of pretending like nothing happened. And then it was from that point forward
He
that
just
he
didn't
did
figure
weird
out yet
things
how to
where he was
cover
trying
it.
to test the waters,
Sending the pictures.
know what she knew, joke around, take pictures of her, be like, "Hey, I see you."
So that was the thing that's like,
Yeah.
That's what I'm telling you.
Always
This is
been-
there's more that and
but the overseers know that, so that's why it's hard for me.
So you told the overseers that
Yep.
no. Like, you told the overseers that Ben purposefully exposed himself?
I said
to you?
he had a
Or-
choice to stand
or-
up from his desk. He chose to stand up from his desk. Because I'm sitting at a desk, I have a panel in front of me. Have my headphones in, so I don't know. I mean, but his computer and his phone alert him to anyone who moves in this church.
Well,
I'm sorry. I'm just trying to process that.
No,
Because I never heard that.
right. So
That was the
so
thing.
I
And
walk
it
in and he
changes-
goes-
I have to go back and think through a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
If that
Yeah.
was.
So I work with a lot of people who are, voyeuristic. I mean, this sounds completely like a voyeuristic tendency.
I
where
would
you would
say
sit up and
we have to be careful because we can't put our perception of the truth is not the truth.
Sure.
but he
And
could have
all we know is for a
stood
fact
because he was
caught
hidden.
him off guard,
Because the
would-
way it sounded
and
like
he chose to
me,
stand up and walk
yeah,
towards her while
was
still
like he got
exposed.
surprised and then went to try to shut the door.
No, because the
She
door's
was
here.
in.
The door's there. The door's here. He's at his desk because it's that kid's room or the bathroom.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
his old office, which he then moved to his house.
Stand
It's
All right.
so
He's behind his desk right there.
Yeah.
perfectly covered.
The door is probably only about this far.
I'd go to the desk
And you,
because there's a
You
couch.
opened the
Because there's a
door.
couch.
Yeah, it's not that
Okay,
far.
okay.
You literally
Yeah,
walk
right,
in,
yeah,
the couch is right
yeah,
there,
okay.
and there's 2 chairs and his
Yeah. So
desk.
he's
Maybe one more step, but still. She opens the door. The door opens in, right?
Yep.
The door opens in. She comes in, and he has his headphones on. Laptop in front of him. He's under the desk. Pants slightly
Off.
down because he's fully exposed. In that moment, he seemed shocked. I'm just saying it how you told it to me. And he stood up and was like, "Oh, hey, Emma, I didn't hear you," and starts pulling his pants up while he's walking towards it with his penis fully erect and exposed himself to her.
that's just
But
crazy.
came directly towards her with that fully exposed. So that's why it's like, did he intentionally do that? We don't know.
But again,
Yeah.
when you
But it
but then when you
still
get
is.
Like-
but when you get camera photos that I'm watching you, I always know when you're in the
And I'm not
building.
saying that's not all. I just
It's
I
weird.
feel like that's a huge.
Leap. It's a leap.
Yes.
So it's a
Huge
big
before.
difference from. I was shocked and stood up, and I did it to whatever.
Right.
And whatever that is, and that's a big. There's a big difference in like.
That same person hires sex offenders. That same person takes pictures.
Well,
that same
if
person.
you
Well-
don't want accountability, you're going to
Yeah.
hire someone who's not going to hold you accountable.
I don't.
She's not gonna
disagree
hold him
with anything that
accountable.
you just said. I just think you could still also hire sex offenders and do all of those other things, and had
and
not.
enjoy to masturbate at a church that people walk in. And he knew she would be walking in that day. It's not like it was a surprise attack.
I mean, I had small group in for his office.
Well, are you trying to tell her that's what happened?
No.
Or because it really sounds like it.
Oh no. I mean, she said.
It's-
I would say this.
From her description to your description, is I'm not.
He set
hearing Emma
this.
say
It
that.
sounds as though you're saying he set the scene to be able to have her walk in on him. We don't know that that's the case.
And why I'm saying all that is very, like, that's very different.
Yeah.
And it's just shocking to me to hear that after everything that I've heard now. And this is, where are we?
Well, I
6
think,
months
Jordan,
in.
I think
Yeah.
you've been put in a bad situation
Yes.
as well because of the gag order that she received when she met with the overseer.
Oh,
You-
you mean? Yeah, he's referring to Pastor Jordan.
Well, yeah.
When Pastor Jordan met with
When they-
her
when
and
they
said
met
basically,
with-
let's not. He told her, let's not give in to the spirit of gossip.
Only
And I-
anyone who I deem
And I-
as Jordan, only ones who
Only that
I
Jordan
deem
deems
necessary
necessary to know
will be
about
brought
it.
into this. Otherwise, it would be in the spirit of gossip.
And I think Jordan, at that moment, was also very much shocked because everything that Ben had told him up to that point
Was a lie.
was much less egregious.
Yeah.
And I think
He didn't know
I
Alicia
think
yet.
Jordan
Yeah.
was just trying to get a timeout
Nobody knew
to
about
figure
Alicia
out what
until
to do. So I'm not
2
I'm
days
not
before
saying,
the meeting that you came up.
But
to.
as a result of that, I think Emma came away from that saying, I can't tell anybody else the rest of this or to tell what actually came out. And you were included in who she couldn't tell. And apparently Jordan didn't tell you everything that came out in that meeting. And certainly Ben wasn't going to tell you that.
And you're more than welcome to listen to that meeting if you would like to.
If you have Jordan's,
Absolutely.
and so, and I don't know that I need to in the sense of like, what I could. It's not.
It's not important. I'm not, but I'm just
Like,
saying
what I'm-
the tone was awful in that meeting.
Yeah. So what I think I want to do, and the part that's for the church moving forward is just to make sure, like, if I can get Emma, like, from you. I heard you say like you want clarity around like that we would take a step, an action step. And I just want to make sure that in the sense of the step that I take, that I'm doing it in sequence with you guys. That I think is the best thing that I can do, and not have it be, incomplete or not enough.
Well,
Because
I would also say, it's too bad that Josh couldn't be here, because I think Josh would have benefited from this conversation. And now you have to communicate it to him.
I mean, he's got it all recorded.
But my hope is that he recognizes that this level of deception was well beyond, and that
to understand there's layers of this that's happening inside of
it's
the
an
church
onion.
things.
It's
Yeah.
an onion, with a lot of layers.
And I'm sure he wants a fresh start.
Absolutely.
And I don't think he's going to get such a thing as
It's
a
not
fresh
such
start.
a thing as in this
Yeah,
type of situation,
not.
unfortunately.
Well,
Yeah.
there's the hard work of restoration. I mean,
Yeah.
Jesus came to redeem, and God redeems lost causes, but it's work.
Yeah.
Jesus had to die for our redemption, and there's no way that the actions that have taken place can be redeemed without the labor and the work and the sweat and the prayer and the conversation and
And the
study
discomfort.
and all the things that are involved in that. And I think if that's not done, this will be under the surface of this church for as long as it lingers.
Yes.
Like if,
And so I think Emma's doing the Thrive a tremendous favor by not just going away. She could have easily just said, "Hey, I'm at crossroads now. I'm just moving on." And I admire the fact that she's pointing out that this work needs to be done for the sake of the people who are still there, and for the future people who can come there and have their lives redeemed.
And really having like a good accounting of like, here's what Ben has done.
Right.
And
Because
this is what's going on. Because I
for
think
the sake of discretion, they did
Yeah.
withhold some information for the purpose of restoration.
yeah.
But in the
We don't have
long
to worry
run,
about that. That's
in the
not-
long run, that
yeah.
kind of did an injustice.
Yeah,
in many
100%.
parts, you know.
Yeah.
because on my side, it just looks like I cared about something that didn't really
Yeah.
matter.
Well, and unfortunately, to the bulk of the people there, masturbating at church apparently didn't matter.
Well, no, that was a
That was
big
kinda
like
trippy.
the one lady was planted by Ben's mom.
No, that was
No.
an Alicia person.
No, that was
Was that-
That's
that
an
was
Alicia person.
that was Kimber. You talking about? Or
Yeah, that's
My perception
the one
of
you're
that
talking-
was
that's the one
that's
he's talking
Ben's
about,
mom
right?
sitting next to her,
yep.
and then her.
Yes.
And they had a group of people
Yeah.
who were trying to agitate to be like Ben's being railroaded.
there was
Ben's
two whole
not
rows there.
that,
They were all ready
and
for
they
it.
were sort
Yeah,
of
because it was like
like
Sam
primed up
Yeah.
to be in, but the rest
Yeah,
of
they
the
let
church,
Ben's mom come to this meeting to let
Wow.
Ben.
Well,
Well, you can't
Hard to
tell
keep
people
somebody
like
away.
Yeah, you can't tell them they
it's
can't
like
be
either
there.
they're going to come,
but it is pathetic to think that he's wants his mommy there. When
Well,
he's
I think his mom
behaving
wanted
like-
to be there.
She wanted to
behaving
defend
like
her
an
son.
adolescent.
well, the thing that was not it. Yeah, I don't want to stir up.
Yeah.
No,
So in the sense of like,
But also then the comments of like he's only 17. He was 17.
The one girl said
Amanda.
the kid. They said the kid was almost 17. He was almost adult. I don't care about that. In regards to Alicia, that being said, it was a small detail about her criminal offense that people didn't actually know everything that happened and that
Well,
how
that-
horrible
that-
it actually
that
was.
Detail was the in terms of fallout. Phil and Alicia are like people will not have Ben back. There would be no way that Ben could ever come back.
No.
As people slowly all of this sort of unpacked.
Well, yeah,
Ben's
people
not-
got home and started looking up
Yeah.
But they're
what
still
the actual
messaging her.
criminal assault was.
And I think that's the important thing too, is that this.
People are done.
Wow,
They're emotional, they're hurting, they're done.
People that Ben needed to go. Ben needed to go before that was even out there, based on the things that he had done
Right.
through Emma, and other things that you're uncovering as you've said.
Yeah. So the culture of victim shaming. So it's more than just inside the church, like people that are saying
Sure.
mean things. Because some of the things people could say can be misinterpreted as mean. Like I don't know what, like as an outside person, what Gianna,
Gianna's great.
who said something to you? And it
Dana.
Dana. Oh, Dana Kilberg.
Dana, Jenny.
And they said you could be somewhere else, or
She
Like-
just said, I hope you have community because it's not here.
right. So
But I should always have been allowed at
is that
Thrive.
like a text or a?
Oh, yeah.
Was there a
Conversation.
conversation leading up to that text is what he's asking.
No.
Like, so
mean-
for context, it could be if you talk to her, she might not be
So I had
The
reached
being
perception of
nasty
it.
in the sense of
right.
like,
I had reached out to her because
like
we were
letting her
friends.
know.
Like we went to conferences together.
Right.
I've been to her house on the 4th of July. I was wanting to have dinner with her. She said, "Emma, I really do appreciate you reaching out, but right now I need some space. Thanks for understanding." I said, "No worries. Can I reach out in a month?" I reached out in a month. She goes, "Emma, I don't think conversation would be helpful. I'm trying to move forward. I hope you found community that you've had for the past several months." I haven't found community. That's an assumption of that I have anyone to be with right now.
so I'm just saying like.
But that should never-
some
that should
sense,
not-
Like, that doesn't sound as you're reading that. Like.
Right, but I
she
shouldn't-
didn't you.
But I
Yes,
should be.
I see it.
Yeah, I mean, it's
I
not.
didn't get
It's
those.
not.
No, I agree.
It's not necessarily mean. I'm saying I should, if anything, be brought into community, be protected by Thrive because I did them a dang good favor by exposing this. It's not necessarily just mean. Like, I'm not saying like it's intentionally mean. I'm saying my mental health has been awful this fall. Like, last time I texted with you, I spent the entire night in my car because I was unsure if I could go inside my house and be safe that night because I got texts from both Jenny and Dana that day. Okay? And so, like, if anything, I should have been protected and loved on by this church. And that's not what happened. And so even if it's not me, I was not loved on by this church that should have loved me, my community. Even though I wasn't regular attending, I still went to the women's conference and helped lead that this spring. I went on every outing for the hiking community. I was part of this community. I went to the 4th of July prayer service that they had. I went to the fireworks that they had. Like, I went out for ice cream with these people. These were still part of my community, even though I couldn't be there on a Sunday. And I was very gentle when I left that I did not throw Ben under the bus leaving.
So, like, I would want to challenge you to like place that on Ben.
Yeah.
For
Because-
sure, but I'm placing it on you to like teach these people to not be assholes.
Well, but even as you're saying that, like in the sense of like all of those things, I am going to push back a little bit because you are jumping over, like you're not part of the church. You're still in relationship, but
Still
you're
in
not
community.
part of the church.
I'm still a sister in Christ.
But
To not-
so what I'm trying to say though
Yeah.
is you're saying you have an expectation for a certain level of relationship
Just
by the church, like the church should do a certain level.
any
of-
church in Syracuse should have loved on me, and honestly, because that,
So
let alone Thrive.
inside of your church that you're at, I think people that are still at Thrive are thinking, okay, we're trying to, because they're also trying to unpack.
Right, but you had
All of the
you had
stuff
a
and the
new
different
membership
things.
class that next Sunday. Why were these people not taking? Why didn't you have a let's figure out how to love on each other Sunday?
Let me just refer. Thrive had a membership class that next Sunday. He was not yet in a position.
He was.
Not that Sunday. It had not yet been announced that he had taken over as
I
interim.
thought it was at the
pastor.
meeting he was taking over.
No, it wasn't. It was a couple weeks after that because I
Yeah.
was in Africa when it was announced.
Regardless, Thrive.
That
had-
that was
had
very
membership.
much in Amy Butter's
so I'm
thing.
just trying to temper like some of what you're saying, and that's part of what from my side is a little unclear. Like that statement,
I have others that I'm Team Alicia, not from Dana, but from others.
and I understand all of that, but like what you want from the people in the church is like micro, not macro. And so it's like individual interactions that are taking place from one person to the next, because you're not in the broad context. You're not on Sunday in the room and walking around, and you're having these individual interactions with different people. And of course, like
Of people who are still leading or having a role of influence.
So some of that, like, definitely, that's what I'm like, we got to address. Like, that stuff should be addressed, and there should be something that has to be done. I just want to be super clear around it. But also have to be like, inside of that, what I just want to challenge you to, like, some of those relationships have been stolen from you,
Yeah.
For sure.
and you want from that relationship, but it's been stolen.
Oh no, it's gone, and that's
And-
fine. I'm disappointed that this is what people react and how they're being. I would hope
Yeah.
that they're being led in a way
I-
better than this now.
I want to speak to one thing because I've been in this. Probably out of all of us, you've been in it the longest with her, but I just want to. That conversation with Dana, and I think this is what he's getting at.
Right? It's not mean. It's just not nice.
No, I understand. Let me. You are very upset and very hurting for good reasons.
Very sick.
And you're very sick. You're exhausted. You're worn out mentally, emotionally, spiritually. I am not. So let me just speak to this for a moment. What you told me that conversation was and what I just read were slightly different. Because the way you communicated it was as though she was very like, I'm not your community, you don't have to be here. Which your perception of that was because you were very broken and hurt by what she said. How she communicated it was
Well, I
not.
also don't have community.
I know.
So
I know. How she communicated it was not quite that way. And when you're saying is that Thrive should have loved on you, and I agree that would have been awesome and very Jesus-like. But when we're looking at the big picture of how much happened, all the parts that fell, that so many different people were not aware of.
right. More so
And
now, I
then-
just want to not have a perception of this is how a victim is treated, because I would hate for anyone that I do love so Thrive to be like, why would I ever come forward about anything? Because this is a terrible example.
Yes.
Right now, and so like I could care less about myself. I don't need
That's
to
not
have
true.
these.
You care about yourself.
I don't really right now.
You do.
I don't.
Or
But
else you wouldn't be so upset. Let me finish what I'm saying for a moment. Just listen
But
for a
I
moment. Take a
really
breath. Breathe.
need to be done soon.
I know you're not feeling well, but I'm hoping that what I'm about to say might bring some clarity to you about even some of those conversations that took place. Because what we're finding is from the jump of everything being communicated on that Monday night from the elders, from the overseers to the church body, you weren't a part of that. Nobody knew it was you.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until Alicia and Phil fell into this piece, right? That they were part of the fallout.
So they got behind the
They
scenes
got
and agitated.
they got behind the scenes.
Well, that I'm burning the church down. I did a
Right.
bad job because look,
So-
Thrive's still succeeding. Emma's awful.
now-
This is everyone's getting these text
Right.
messages, which I have Alicia's text messages to members of Thrive,
Yes.
setting off firestorms.
Take a breath for a second. Now, because nobody actually knew what happened, because it wasn't communicated, because in an attempt to actually protect you by not putting your name out there, it created more fallout because now when someone else got to narrate the story from a different perspective. So what these people don't know is the truth.
And they don't want to.
They do, well,
They don't want a conversation.
You have to remember too, Emma, that yes, you're the victim in this, but they also are victims, and they also were hurting, and they also were broken by this. These were these were people that they trusted, people that they came from broken churches from, that they were also finding healing in, and then kicked across the room as well. You have to remember that. I know it sucks because you're
Right,
broken
so
and
they
hurting.
just need to be led better.
But now, I think what needs to happen, because the only one you really told the whole thing to, and I don't even know if you told the whole thing to, was Jenny. I don't think Jenny even knew the full story. I'm not
Jenny
justifying
heard the
Jenny's answer. I'm not because her response
She
actually
listened to
was
the whole meeting with
her
them.
response was kind of mean. But I just want to say these people were coming from a perspective of first they don't fully know the truth of what actually happened. A lot of things were protected for the sake of restoration, but then the narrative got twisted because there was someone who was bringing in facts that weren't facts, and then they're confused and broken, and now they need someone to be mad at because they're broken and hurt, and unfortunately you became the person to be mad at. And I think that I'm as I saw that text, I'm kind of like realizing this is really what happened.
Well, that
The
text
lack
was given
of-
the same day as Jenny's.
I know, but I'm saying that actually, unfortunately, when we try to be discreet for the sake of protection, we also sometimes leave room for people to get hurt more because it leaves a lot for the imagination. And it leaves room for someone, unfortunately, this time it was Alicia, to narrate this story,
Ben is
and
behind
Ben
the scenes
to narrate
shooting
this
things
story
on
to
her.
create
Right.
an enemy.
Because people think I went to the police. It was a member of your kids' ministry that went to the police. Like,
Well, they reported it to the parole officer,
parole
right?
officer,
Alicia's
and
parole
then
officer.
the police came to me. Like, I didn't
Yep.
do any of that, but people
Yeah.
thought I think
So,
I did.
I think
one-
if we're able to, I'm sorry.
One point
Go
that
ahead.
you made, I'd like to emphasize, and that is that it's a hurting community
Yes.
at that point. That Ben's actions
And
and,
Alicia's.
deceptions, okay, and theirs, but I'm saying
Ben.
just apart from this, for prior to them even being there, Ben was cultivating an atmosphere of deception. He was
Yep.
fooling himself. He's a victim as well as a perpetrator of a deceived point of view about what his role as a shepherd was. And he has shepherded this flock into a place of dysfunction and hurt. And you, unfortunately, were probably the most hurt, but the rest of them had a level of deception on top of that where they just couldn't imagine Ben being a perpetrator.
Right.
Because he'd so skillfully woven this image of himself in their minds. And as the threads have been coming out of this thing, financially, I guess, from what you're saying, and other things, this is a web of deceit
Yeah.
that he has woven. And when they don't yet know how deceptive that web has become, they see you as someone who's
An enemy.
you must be deceived because you're not seeing how wonderful a guy he
Right.
is.
And that's just why I've been asking since
Yeah.
the beginning that something is said to these people,
Right.
because I do get that. Like, but at the same time, I'm like, I am too tired for this.
Right.
And it sounds like, unfortunately, he didn't know
Right.
who
Well,
to protect.
And also in the process, there was a thought we were going to try to do restoration with Ben.
Right.
And then
Well, they didn't realize how bad
Ben
it
would
was
have
yet.
made he would have addressed and apologized and done the work that he should do had he been
Which
like,
would never have villainized
repentant.
you.
and so there was this hope, and it was being nurtured, right? That was being nurtured by Ben. That, I'll take these steps and do these things, and he would sing this song in this room, like here, and when he's talking to me, and then he would go, and you need the action step, or you need the thing that would take place, and it was like, so many times. Several times, I know in talking to you, Emma, that there were times that I was like, no, we gotta wait for Ben to like that statement or whatever that is, that I had put my hope that Ben was gonna do
Repentance.
Yeah.
and it was like So I got snowed by Ben, and there's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And it's one of those, like, in the process of that, you didn't get what, and it's still not out there.
Mhm.
It's still not been
Yeah.
said. Because that I know was like earlier in, you're asking for like these things. I'm like, yeah, we have those things.
Well, when we were
And-
going to have this meeting today, my comment was, Emma doesn't need to give the church a statement. The church needs
yeah,
to give Emma
I
a
need.
statement.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not trying to get.
No, I hear you.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's
But you're exactly right. You know,
So,
that's
I'm
the
sorry.
most healing thing that can happen.
yeah.
I'm thinking, and again, I'm not in charge. I realize that, but I think for Emma's sake, these people who were here from when all of this happened, not everybody in this church at this point, we do need to have a meeting, and I think we need to be fully expose everything,
Yeah.
and then be able to openly tell them, you know, we understand several people were hurt. We understand there was a lot of communication that's happened from this point between a lot of different people, but in no part, and be able to fully back and say, in no part whatsoever was Emma at fault for anything that
Yeah.
happened. And then set a standard of what the culture is moving forward for this church.
Yeah.
And that includes leadership, character, which
Accountability.
means
that
no
is the one thing I'm
sexting,
very
no getting high, no getting like biblical principles.
I mean, that's going to be a
'Cause
fun
unfortunate-
phone caller meeting.
Because
I don't know.
unfortunately, Jonathan, who is currently I think he calls himself the
Worship director.
creative arts director.
okay.
He doesn't just sex; he also gets high on a regular
Yeah.
basis. Which, you know, again, that everybody has different views of that. But I think on a biblical stance, I think we can also say that God openly speaks
I'm going to
against
have
that.
to go.
Yeah, that's fine.
But I do think that these people, especially the ones who are presenting as the leadership team right now, I do think a meeting with them would be best to fully inform, no longer hiding anything. Ben's lost the privilege of discretion. Emma's earned the privilege of full exposure.
Kindness.
And kindness, and I don't know what it's going to look like at the end of it all, but
Can I pray before?
yeah, but I do think that that's a good way to move forward.
Heavenly Father, we're thankful that you have overcome the darkness and that Jesus came and he was the light and that he overcame the darkness. And yet the darkness keeps trying to take back ground. We know that by the power of Jesus Christ and what he did for us on the cross, that the truth prevails. And we don't get it all at once sometimes, and when we get it, we're sometimes confused about what to do with it. I just pray here for Will. I pray for
Yes,
Josh.
Lord.
I pray for Emma. I thank you for Emma's courage
Yes, God.
and for her persistence to want to make sure that Thrive is protected from repeating the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And I pray for these godly men that you would just give them wisdom and courage as well, and how to take this seed of tares that's been put in with the wheat, and to remove it, and to be able to restore the trust that's been broken and the confusion that continues. And it's not easy. There's no manual for this, God. There's no two of these circumstances that are alike. And so we just need your Holy Spirit to be the guide and the teacher and the one who just inspires the right steps to take to bring full restoration and to redeem this place that can be a lighthouse for you in the city.
Mm-hmm.
And I ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thanks, Vic.
Thanks, Pastor.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Pastor,
Nice meeting you.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
to meet you.
Yep.
Nice meeting
Mary,
you.
pleasure meeting you.
As well.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to
Thank you
meet
for
you.
coming
See you
out.
next week.
See you next Wednesday.
So, are there any action steps?
Well, I think it was just outlined pretty good. If that what you just said was a summation of all of those things, and it's sort of what my thought was, to have a meeting, like say, hey, after Sunday service on one of these days, we're gonna do a meeting. I like to have food and stuff because
It's people kind.
Yeah.
food is better.
It's so much better.
It's just better.
If you didn't come with pizza, it would have been a really rough time today.
Yeah, so
No.
What's in that other great black container?
this is
Garlic bread.
Garlic bread.
Both
Yeah.
of them are garlic
Yeah.
bread?
Yeah.
I was like, if there had been wings sitting there
Oh,
this
yeah,
whole
right.
time.
No, I should
Sorry.
have wings.
Yeah.
So the
Too much
this is
food.
weird. They cut the slices.
That's how they do it here.
How they do it.
Yeah.
I know, I
Everyone
don't,
does that?
I don't
No,
recognize
they're
it.
tweets.
It is a Twin Trees thing.
Oh, it's
And
just.
my kids require me to cut my pizza like that now.
That's right.
If you
Okay.
don't cut it like Twin Trees.
I don't like it.
It's like little strips. It's interesting.
What about just a conversation, sorry, like around if you have concerns about what your pastor's doing? I mean, like, is there a level
So I'll tell you
of...
about already what we're doing. We're reviewing with Josh Constitution and bylaws.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first thing that has to happen, is they have to have an operating board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's the board of trustees that have to vet him. He's got to vet. He's brand new.
Yeah.
So he's got to vet the board of trustees. I've given him a couple people that I think are probably good.
Do they have to be, I couldn't remember this, but do they have to be active attending members of Thrive to be a trustee?
Yeah.
I
They
thought
would have to
so.
be actively at the
Attending.
church,
Okay.
giving and serving.
Sorry, I'm just pulled up the
Financially.
bylaws,
So-
I was trying to remember.
So, but the Constitution and bylaws needs to be amended.
Mm-hmm.
So that also is like, so they have to have a business meeting at some point. So they have to have a formal acknowledgement of members, and then have a roster, and then have a vote to approve the
We've
new
never
consti-
had any of that.
No, so it's all the stuff, right?
Yeah.
They have to have a vote to approve. And I don't think, I read the Constitution and bylaws once, and there's so many misspellings in it.
Oh my gosh, it's disgusting.
That was going to be my first thing. Can we have
so
somebody
gross.
read this, please?
And I'm like, how did this fit?
How did it get
The Constitution
approved?
and bylaws, so you didn't even run a spell check. So
It's disgusting.
and it's not
Oh,
like it was
God.
like I put
The first
spell
paragraph,
check
there's
and
like
I
10
put the wrong
errors.
word.
gross.
It's just not done.
Oh, God.
So
It's like ChatGPT wrote it, and then like also
ChatGPT
would have done better. I know.
Yeah.
It
they
was
probably would have spelled
wrong.
everything right.
So the Constitution and bylaws, like, he's got to get all of the organizational legal stuff fixed, because you can't, like,
Continue to
And you're
tithe.
currently working with him on that?
I'm working with him on
Okay.
that. We've got an attorney coming in to help
Oh, perfect.
with all of that, because
So
the
Jordan's
church-
out.
huh?
Jordan's not helping with this.
Jordan's gone.
Good,
All the other overseers resigned from
That's crazy.
the thing, because really the way the overseers are designed is as a relationship with Ben.
Oh, okay.
'Cause they-
so it's Ben's mentors,
Ben
more or
picks
less.
them
Yeah.
as overseers, and then he would trust them to help with transitioning the church when he's when he retires, or if he died randomly, and then these guys would help to steward the transition. So they're not part of the, like, Cyrus and there's Michael, I think now,
Yeah. Nathan? Michael.
in
Anyway,
Texas. And
So he
those guys
resigned as well, the one in Texas?
they're all
Okay.
resigned. So they all resigned when I became the
Interim.
because I don't
You don't on Thursday?
have a relationship. I'm in a relationship with Brandon
Right.
Samuels.
Sure.
Like, Brandon used to pastor. Brandon's from Syracuse. Used to pastor in Binghamton, and then he went to
North Carolina.
Virginia.
to Richmond in
Virginia. Got it.
Virginia. So I knew Brandon, like, randomly for years, and that's how I got involved, because also Brandon was talking to Ben, and he said, well, is there anybody to that you think could, and we're an ARC church.
Right.
And I had talked, this is why I'm involved. I feel somewhat responsible for Ben. Because when I had Ben come down.
Because he preached at your church, right?
Yeah. But before he was still on staff at Eastern Hills.
Which I was there with him. I've been with him since.
You've been there? Yeah.
Yes.
So before that, when he was there, I started saying, Ben, you should plant a church. And Ben was a student at Davis and was in the Binghamton orbital sphere. And so I invited him to an ARC meetup where I'm an ARC coordinator for other pastors in the area. And one of my jobs as a coordinator is to help get people to plant churches. So Ben's one of the ones that I talked to, and I introduced him to ARC and introduced him to the whole thing. So behind the scenes, I signed with ARC, there's a paper to say, hey, I'll back.
You're the
Like a letter of support.
You're the financial backer if they fail.
I'll back Thrive, right?
Because they loan. It's because of the loan.
There's a 50, 30,
Right.
50, I don't remember what he got, but I said, that's too, well, we'll sign that so that the church can happen. Let's make that happen. So behind the scenes, I was rooting for Thrive. And, it's always funny when they say this launch date or whatever. I'm like, Ben, you didn't launch 2 years ago. You launched it was, every church planner I know that tried to launch during COVID has a second launch date. Like the first launch didn't work. Hey everybody, we launched, and so he talked about when they went into that building as the launch.
They're just third birthday.
Whatever.
Yeah.
So just this weekend or whatever. So
Happy birthday.
Part of that, I feel somewhat responsible for, and of course I'm not, but you can't help but feel that, and have some level of
hindsight's 20/20 that you wish you was
Ownership.
So as you have influence in ARC, it seems like as a coordinator or the regional coordinator, is there any benefit? I understand the ARC process that each church is its own entity. ARC is not overseeing any church. Correct me if I'm wrong.
it's a total
Right. It's a
they're
training
not a
center.
denomination.
It's a training program, right? To launch pastors, helping.
You get the connection, so
is
you kind
there-
of get backing with people.
Is there any way of this being a great learning thing for their training of pastors? Of because they obviously went through this.
Look at his
No,
face.
it's
I'm
not.
sorry.
You don't even
You're
want
like,
to look into ARC.
We've been looked at.
We know.
So
Yeah.
We're in dark.
This version of this is the downside to non-denominational.
Yeah.
The pastor becomes king.
Yeah.
Yeah. For sure.
And there's no denominational
Not Jesus.
Yeah, and there's no denominational oversight.
No oversight,
like-
just training of
But
what good practices or
so they're doing this thing inside of ARC now where they have retreats.
right.
They're trying to get guys, because here's what ARC has done.
Well, Doug Bullock from Eastern Hills runs one of the retreat centers down in South Carolina.
Yep.
I mean,
Yeah. So
I get what we're
here's
doing.
the thing. It's still here. No matter what's happened is all these ARC guys, the things grow too fast.
Sure.
The weight of the pressure
Absolutely.
and their integrity, they can't handle the weight.
Uh-huh.
So if you build a house on a foundation with cracks, the house can get big until the pressure on the foundation exposes the cracks.
Absolutely.
Right? Olden days, pastors didn't know how to grow a church as fast. So you had this process of refinement. You couldn't have the big presto church in a box explosion growth thing and we have cars now. This is also a problem. Cars, like, you can go to church
Go
with
online.
people. Well, it's even worse.
Yeah,
That is, but like what I'm saying is, you can go to church with people you don't know how they live.
Without community.
Yeah.
So, 100 years ago, or maybe more now, 120 years ago, horses. Like you had to go to church with the people in your neighborhood, so you
Yeah.
knew if Jonathan's diddling somebody else, or
Right.
like everyone knows, it's so obvious. And you can't get away with in the community, and there's no like I can go to another church. It's like, what church am I going to go to? You got to go to this church, and you might choose the other, Methodist one, but
Yeah.
there's
There's only so many options back in the day too.
you lived together in community.
There was
So
accountability
now-
through community.
So now you have pastors who are growing up in a really broken world, and they're called into ministry. But the pace in the ministry, no one sees. Like the formation of being known doesn't exist in our culture. So now you add to that the pressure of growth. So if somebody's like,
But that comes from ARC too, of like a huge launch, correct?
ARC's perfected it.
Right. So, as
And
someone
that's-
who has influence, is there any?
You're
piece?
not gonna. You still want. You still.
You're too little on
you'll-
it.
Well, here's the thing. Even there's people inside of ARC that are like, we got to do something. The problem is, what we're doing is catching people at the bottom of the cliff after they've already run off. The problem, once you train somebody to build this kind of church, presto, growth, people are getting reached, people are legitimately experiencing Jesus, people are legitimately having encounters with God, and there's stuff that's awesome happening inside of it. So the model is good. What's bad is they can't vet guys good enough
Right.
when you put them into the process, because Ben, does anybody know?
But Eastern Hills didn't support him leaving.
I think Ben's had a character issue right from the jump. You know?
I mean, Eastern Hills did not support him.
from what
leaving.
I've heard.
How do you know? Like he's.
But I'm saying, if you had gone to Doug Bullock and said,
We didn't join
Wait.
with Thrive because of Ben. Beautiful Mess has never agreed to. We worship at every single church around the city, but we would never agree to worship because of Ben.
Didn't Beautiful Mess just do a worship night at Thrive at some point already?
What's Beautiful Mess?
It's a
music ministry too.
it's a worship.
Night.
No,
Oh, you
Heck's the
go.
word
You
I'm
go.
trying to think of.
mission and music. So it's a nonprofit where we go around and do we use worship leaders from all the local churches. Then we meet at one local church in Syracuse, and then the next day it's about missions and.
So in the last 2 years, I really moved over to doing stuff with church multiplication movement because there's so much scandal in what it's like. There's the accountability factor.
But a voice
Inside
from
of
someone
the
needs to yell,
non-denominational.
though. That hasn't fallen. Someone needs to yell and be like, "ARC, slow down."
Well, it is happening. ARC hasn't planted. I think this year maybe they only planted like 50 churches. So this last year.
Wait, when you say only 50, what's their normal?
Well, prior to that, in the last it had been 100 a year.
Holy cannoli.
So
This is my third.
That's a lot of
150 a year.
churches.
It's national though.
This is my
Fucking
third
nationally.
ARC
So,
church.
Like
That's
by
just
state,
a lot of churches.
by state, you would only be like.
I launched your
one or
first
two a
one in
state.
Africa, just so you know.
Yeah.
In
I was part of the launch team for your first Africa church in Eswatini, Swaziland.
For ARC?
you know Paul Andrews? Mm-hmm. Very cool.
Yep, from Liberty in New York.
Yeah.
Yep.
How do you know Paul?
Because I helped him launch. That's the,
I know,
Missionary.
but
I'm a missionary.
Yeah, because you're a missionary. Okay. Yeah.
yep.
So Children's Cup, and you're rocking with Children's Cup. Children's Cup. I love Children's Cup.
Yep.
So that's like I'm a big Children's Cup guy. But that is ultimately the problem you have. And by percentage, it's hard to say the percentages, right? But because ARCs, part of the ARC thing, like in the Assemblies of God, you have a lot of guys that fail, but they just don't fail as spectacularly
Yeah.
because
Or we
their
just hide it
churches are
better.
smaller, so you don't hear about it.
Yeah.
Where if it's a large church, it's a spectacular failure.
Well, I
Yeah,
also
It's a
feel like
little
there's this
more-
model of
So it's hard to say.
lead
if-
pastor right away. Like I think the model, historically had been like associate pastor. We weren't always just launching a new church as our first ministry.
Pastor,
You- we
35,
did.
32
Yeah.
years old.
We're moving up. We're moving up.
Leading a church.
And
Oh,
we're,
by the
we're
way,
getting
there's no
vetted.
accountability.
We're getting vetted through the way.
By the way,
But so
which is funny because when I first came to Thrive, I met with Ben and openly had that conversation with him. So I'm very concerned about accountability and oversight because I walked away from my church a few months prior to going to Thrive. I quit my job. I was the assistant pastor for the same reason, because the pastor becomes king and gives the impression or the illusion of an eldership team that makes decisions, but they don't. So we had a very
I have to go
open
through the
conversation of that. So even that when and not for nothing, or I don't know if Emma even knows this, but I stepped back as soon as Alicia came in the picture.
well, she purposely pushed you out.
Oh, I know.
100%.
I knew it, and I was like, yeah, I'm
There
not.
were so many nice messages in the group
Power
leadership chat about
To
Mary.
herself.
Aw, I love
There's so
it.
many nice. But that's also was a
But because
a
that was the
trend.
thing, I saw it. I saw Alicia coming in. I saw Ben allowing Alicia coming in, and the only reason to this day that my foot still even steps into Thrive is because God's telling me to go there. It's the only reason I've stayed. But because even when that happened, I was like, yeah, I said I just got away from this. I'm not about to be in the throes of it happening when I've seen it happening before it even happened. But God didn't release me, so that's why I'm still there. But
So your plan now moving forward is
We're
meeting
gonna
with
have a meet-
Josh.
Yeah.
Josh needs to know, man.
Yeah. I'll send him this. And then what'll happen is we'll get a meeting together. And I think it needs to be a little, I'll read a statement. Here's the things. And then open up for Q&A. And get real ugly for a little while. And just bleed everybody out. I would suggest you not listen to the meeting. Have someone else, a proxy, go listen who can filter what that is, because I feel like the he said, she said stuff is eating you alive, and in ways that I don't know. Well, it's up to you. You do it.
Well, it hurt
But,
so much
like,
because these were people who were close
Yeah.
friends.
yeah,
It,
and
it
it's-
wasn't just church members. These were the ones you established
This is
relationships
my leadership
with.
team. I mean, I'm on leadership team with these
like,
people.
they're saying stuff with you not in the room.
Right.
So they're not filtering it through. Like, here's the difference why I wanted to meet you in person. On the phone, one thing. Texting is a whole
Awful.
nother thing. But an in-person thing, to be able to say something and read somebody's affect and how that has a impact on somebody and what that's doing to someone is a huge difference versus, okay, so
so when do you think that would happen sooner? or later?
well, no, what I'm saying in that sense is, like, if you, some of the things that people say, if you were in the room, they would say it different
Right.
because they would filter it through you. And and if you're not in the room, it's not like they don't care about you or they're being hateful toward you. They're just not thinking about filtering it through you. So
It's a good learning experience.
No, he's saying
I-
we can actually address the heart of a situation when the heart is fully exposed. They won't fully expose their heart if you are present.
No. Of
That's-
course, I'm not planning to be there.
Or if they know you're going to be
imply
present.
It's about her.
or it's two different ways, because they would be like what might sound
'cause I
hurtful
don't-
to you
yeah.
when they're not. They wouldn't say it that way,
Right.
Right.
because they would, out of deference to her, say it differently, because it's like,
Yeah, like that's why I don't need to be
wanna
there, because I'm
make
like,
sure to say it right,
Yeah.
right.
because it's
Or they're
Yeah,
just playing
but
a part.
She doesn't want to be there for that meeting. She just wants to have an idea of when you think the meeting
yeah.
might happen.
Well, I'll talk to Josh. My goal is to have it happen sooner than later, and I'm not going to be able to get. I mean,
I'll be there, and I can be a
you'll
part of
there,
it.
and I think it'd be really healthy for you to be able to commit, because you have a really strong grasp of all.
the details.
Yeah, in a really healthy way, and having that happen would be really, really healthy, and to be able to craft that and do that, I would try to do that.
Can I ask, would it be, and again, I don't know if she wants to, right? Like, and again, I don't know how much of a learning experience is needed at this point that's directed towards anything reconciling with her. But, I mean, her and I have talked about it, and she could, like, is it important, would it be worthwhile for her to write a statement about what it's like been post of this, that they can read what someone has dealt with?
I would 100% be open to that, because that would be
And I
Very-
could write it on behalf, like there's a lot of different, yeah.
some version of that, because victim empathy is a key step in reconciliation.
And Darvo
Right.
training, like
Because what happens is, no one views, like, there's not as many people as you would think who are thinking about Emma on any given day.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that to be demeaning. I just mean it, I know how people live.
Mm-hmm.
They're not thinking about what you're going through. So they're going about their day, doing whatever they do, and say whatever they say. Listen, I get online and I play Call of Duty, and I say mean stuff to people on Call of Duty, because it's what I do. Right? Like, screw you, kid. And
It's probably a 13-year-old you just yelled at too. It's great.
I'm coming for you. So it's,
Just kidding, yeah.
and why I use that as an illustration is that I'm calloused about like, in that, because it's sort of in that context you're supposed to do whatever that is, and people can callous themselves to stuff, and a victim statement helps them to realize there's a bigger world than my world, and my pain and my experience of what's happened. And half of the ministry of Jesus is just getting people to be like, stop worrying about your thing and worry about someone else's thing.
Yep.
So that would be, if you were willing to say that or do that. Be
I'll
huge.
say this. I don't think you should write it for her. I think she needs to provide the statement. But what you can do,
well, I'm just
is
saying
you
I
can-
have more than her that have.
I don't think we should address other people though.
Yeah.
Not right now. Right now, the only thing that should be a statement should come from would be you. But this would be my thing, because I know it's a lot to sit down and write something like that. If you would like to voice record it and send it to me, I will type it up for you and send it back for you to review.
We'll see. I don't know if I
Because
wanna do
if that's what I'm saying. If you want to do it,
Yeah.
for you to be able
I just
to
don't think
read it,
anyone cares at this point, so that's why I don't
I
know.
think you might be surprised.
Yeah.
Well,
And that's
I
what.
don't care if they care.
even if they don't know you, it's not that they need to know you. It's that they need to know what the pain is, so that we can have some clarity around this. Can't, like, this has to be not what we do in the future.
Right.
And my eyes are getting super dry.
You know,
Yes.
I'm very tired.
So I've got lotion, or eye solution in the,
drops right here.
yeah, in the truck. I have some more.
Oh, you're saying that drops?
Yeah, if
Oh.
you have eye drops, would be
Yeah.
great. I'm wearing
Some if you
contacts and
don't.
all day they've been.
I got them, and they're 4 contacts.
There you go. Look at
Thank
you.
you.
Gotcha. But Emma, we're not going to put a meeting. We're not going to hold the meeting off until you provide a statement. We'll let you know when it is, and if you want to have a statement for that point in time, it can be provided to them.
Yeah.
Does that make
Yep.
sense? Like, this isn't something that's going to be put on hold until you decide what you're going to do.
Probably be,
Because I think that would be unfair to put you under that kind of pressure after everything that you've already been having to deal with.
probably like February 2nd.
February 2nd. That's the first Sunday in February?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Cool.
For you, based on what we've said so far, how are you feeling about the decision?
It's great. I mean, that's what I've wanted all along. So, happy for that.
And do you feel like sitting down and being with I can't even think of any words anymore.
You know?
Fully exposing everything, right? Full disclosure. Completely saying all the truth, not hiding any details, and then allowing them to understand the weight of what's happened. With a statement from you or not, we can still express on your behalf if you don't feel like writing it yourself. Do you feel like that's a good place to start from this point? And then also moving into the teaching of a foundation of what culture looks like moving forward. Especially, God forbid, another situation happens.
I mean, something's always going to happen, unfortunately.
Right.
Yeah.
Like obviously not this severe and this many people all at once.
It's a whole different level
So different.
with the pastor. Like,
Because so many of them don't understand the layers of deception. The layers of it. Because even that night, that Monday night when we had the meeting, so much of it was protected. And I know, I was the last person to speak that night. And
She's the one that closed that meeting.
I
out.
closed that meeting out very much pointing to the fact that yes, what's being spoken about is masturbation right now, but that is not the only thing that happened. And we have to understand that there was a series of decisions that were made after the fact, and clearly many that were made before it that are the bigger issue as well. And people just don't understand because they don't know. And it doesn't excuse their behavior, but it helps you understand it. But when all the truth is laid out on the table, now they have to make a decision, and they have to own the weight of that decision. But you also have to be aware that after this meeting happens, there might not ever be reconciliation between you and these people. They might very well reach out and apologize. They may not.
No, again, it's mainly I just don't. This is just a terrible example, and it makes me so sad
Yes.
that this is specifically how a community that I hold so dearly, and really the reason that I came forward about that for them.
Right.
It wasn't necessarily for me in that moment why I came out. It was because I was like, Ben's being a terrible leader, and it was because he treated someone he made light of someone breaking their leg so many times that Sunday. Some girl on a Thrive hike broke her leg this Sunday that I came forward about it to Jordan. I came forward to Jordan on Monday. Ben was awful on the Sunday to people who were on that hike and just blaming them for this girl. And it's funny that she broke her leg and tripping over people and it's just bad leadership, and I was like, he's not caring for these people's hearts. And I'm like, this just needs to be exposed. This it's for them. I am gone, but this is just, he's not, something's bad. Something bad.
Yeah.
And it's just sad that in that I wasn't cared for, and that stinks. So Thank you for meeting. Thank you for calling.
Thank you. I really thank you.
And
Well, just, as we move, I'm trying to communicate, who should I reach out to?
it would be great.
Do I have your
Very.
number?
Probably not.
Can I,
Let me just put it in. For
if possible. You don't have to if you don't
No,
want to.
I will.
I'm
I
just
will.
kidding.
She's,
It's very, like, I want to be done, but I also have to, like, very much.
Yeah.
Also, like, the setup of the meeting, there's a bit of it of, like, the initial meeting with the overseers wasn't set up well. Jordan
Yeah.
tried to cancel that meeting.
Was the first meeting for her, Ben, and Jordan.
Was canceled.
Like, Jordan tried to cancel it that day, and then they're like, well, we'll meet with another overseer. And he's like, never mind, we can do it.
So just like, the meeting tonight
The
just,
way, so
it's
that's,
just-
That's why it
triggered her
exasperated
of,
it.
like, What games
and that's
are
like
people
Josh
playing?
called me and he's like, dude, I think you're walking
Yeah.
into a firestorm.
You are.
I kind of took over that call too, because I was like, just so you know, I think there's just a miscommunication. Because
But-
it was the
it's just
there
unfortunate
was a
it keeps
perception
happening.
that the meeting was set up through you on his behalf, and then he was bailing on it.
But not even that he was
And then,
failing.
then
It just
seemed
seemed
as though
like
there might have been deception on your part based
Well,
on what was
she
communicated.
requested for Josh to be there.
Yes.
but
So for it
was
not to be
just
communicated-
My thing was just to have a meeting
Right.
with you.
Right.
Right, but when I asked for a
Like,
meeting with you and Josh, and then it not to be communicated that Josh wasn't coming, did not feel great. Just so you know.
And just with the past
I,
experience.
Yeah.
so hindsight on that.
Yeah.
Just
'Cause
communicate
when you
better
said,
next time.
I was like, oh, why is that a big deal? That Josh isn't gonna be there.
Because I asked him to be.
I
Yeah.
know, but
Yeah.
it was like,
Yeah.
it never crossed my mind that, like,
The weight of it all.
Because he's the one that gets to make decisions, in my point. And so, in my opinion, and so, like, for him not to be here, it's like, what the point if
Yeah.
he's the one setting the culture? This meeting's about setting a new culture, and the person setting the culture isn't here, then why are we meeting? So,
well, I think I trust him as a leader.
And again, you don't realize it, but it was just very strange that she gets texted this Reddit string, and the next day you
from a
text-
Thrive member. And I'm like,
a
why are
Thrive
we.
member texts her that, and then you.
On Reddit,
No, they just
It's
were
a
like.
thread on Reddit. I can send it to you so just you have an idea.
mean-
I don't get Reddit.
I don't either, but someone
But I don't.
someone sent it to me, and I sent it to
Yeah,
Sarah.
so someone sent it to
Smart.
her, and then the next day you reach out. So it was just like, what is happening again here? That
So
this
it's-
is.
There's a season
It
of
was just this whole
Something.
string of somebody started this, what's going on?
I gotta get it to my kiddos.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No, you're fine. You can just lock it behind me.
Just
That thing right there. Yeah, it's fine. You guys are fine. You guys are fine.
Taking that with you?
No, you are.
can't. Yeah, you
I
are.
am?
These are your
You're
kids?
gonna take that home to the fam?
you guys can have it if you want.
I can't.
No,
No?
you take it
I'll
home.
take it. I do
yeah,
have
take
kids,
it home.
but my
Please take it
son
home.
hates pizza at this point. We've done so many. I get pizza every single Sunday.
Yeah, but you gotta show them how they
For
cut
the
the
next
pizza,
steps. Yeah,
man.
yeah, yeah.
You gotta be like, yo, check this out.
I know when you guys leave. I'm
So
still
this is a
giving my
good
card too.
this is a good comment. Like you said, the lack of transparency has been disappointing.
Yeah.
So like we just need to take that and fully.
But then, just so you know, there's still pictures with Phil and Alicia with kids on your social media.
He thrives social media.
Back in the was it you that I talked to? Somebody called
That was
about removing a picture from the thing, and Jonathan, and he got into it with you.
Yeah, and he treated me like crap in front
Yeah.
of people, like as a. Yeah, he didn't know who I was. But.
And that's what. So he got into it with you, and then we talked about.
Then we talked about it,
yeah.
and then after the fact, I was getting called the spy thing. So, and
Jonathan was calling you a
Cool.
spy for.
But why was he
Alicia?
saying Alicia sent you as a spy?
because he doesn't know because he didn't actually think that I've been a part of Beautiful Mess forever, that I would be at everything that Beautiful Mess is. So all of a
Right,
sudden,
no, but why Alicia?
Because who else is sending her? Because Alicia is connected with you. Alicia sent us all to
Okay,
her.
let me rephrase my question because this is why would Jonathan think Alicia needs someone to spy for
because
Does that make more
Alicia's-
sense?
That's how
voicing
she is.
voicing.
I mean, but
talking with
Alicia
people.
gave all these people to me. I only
Her
know
last name,
Hall
Hall.
or
Phillips.
Phillips now.
Phillips.
Yeah, Alicia Hall. was
But her
maiden name.
conviction-
I
is
tried
on-
to look up
The convictions
It's under Alicia Hall.
Alicia Hall.
Alicia Hall.
She was a
That's the
teacher of
thing.
a
And
special
what's her
needs
husband
program.
name? It's
Philip.
Phil.
Phillips.
Yep. And it was a 14-year-old little boy in Connecticut.
Oh, it's not. Is he registered in New York?
He is. Because they live right over here.
Yeah.
Who is Alicia Hall?
I can send that to you if you would like to see it.
Yeah, I'm just out of
Pennsylvania.
curiosity.
Yeah.
There's no. That's one of those like. I
No,
one day
she's
I
a-
tried to look them up, and I
Yeah.
couldn't
Yeah, I-
find them anywhere, and it was.
Well, it's very nice meeting you. And
Thank you.
yes, thank
Listen,
you. Listen, we're all
Thank you.
doing the work.
Yeah. So
But yeah. That's part of it. Yeah. I mean, I can send them to you.
Yeah, send them too because I don't.
But yeah.
have it
Of
anymore.
Alicia's comments too, you know, that them.
I don't have
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
I don't want to know.
Yeah, they got deleted.
Yeah.
hold on. Let me. Can you?
Still in contact?
Mary, let me text you
yeah.
real quick.
Go ahead. I should have put like Thrive in there or something
Yeah, I
to
need
help
to,
you.
because I was like, I'm not gonna remember your name.
I almost put
out
it
of
in
the-
there because that's how
Yeah,
I have to put.
mhm.
I should change yours. You're still under us, Emma Thrive. I know who you are at this point, but
Okay.
all right.
Did you get that?
Yeah, Pastor, what's your last name?
Hampton. Hampton.
Thank you. I know you said it. I just forgot.
Yeah. 8:44. My wife's gonna kill me.
Would you like us to write a message on your behalf?
She knows what.
She's like, he's still in Syracuse.
She doesn't know. Wait till you tell her.
She's.
You'll be like, OMG. Let me tell you.
Well, she knows what I'm doing, so
Yeah.
it's one of those like. My wife is super protective, so she's not like anything with Thrive, any of this, because it's
Yeah. Okay.
extra. It's all extra. So she's like, you know, whatever. So it's the nature of the beast. You pay the piper.
Yep. Is there anything else we can do or say?
No.
Emma,
I'm tired.
thank you
I'm so tired.
for meeting with me. It's
Yeah.
a pleasure to be able to put a face to the name and the voice and the conversations. And I apologize for my missteps along the way. I hope you can hear my heart in that and recognize, even if, so, you know, the question around Reddit, one, I don't have it, two, it didn't come up.
I know.
on
It's
the
just
thing.
it's just a lot all at once.
Yeah.
But just so you know, even if like I have no dog in the race
For sure.
to be here,
Right,
right? There's
right.
no.
You could walk
I'm not
away.
the
It doesn't hurt
pastor
you or
of the
benefit
church.
you.
It's not. It's not. I don't need to be here.
Right.
I'm here because in prayer. I've been in prayer and praying for you, and I felt the Lord put that on my heart to. We need to do something, and I left that open ended with you, and I'm not in the role, but it still needed to be done, and so
Excited to see how.
that's what where we're at, and just if anything, know that you're not forgotten. The Lord sees you, and the Lord is on your side,
Of course.
which is hard to think of sometimes, but it's super cool actually, some of our connections without knowing it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
wasn't that funny?
Liberty Church.
This one probably has to be turned off by hand. Huh?
Yeah.
Paul Andrews was my launch coach.
Oh, nice.
Is this the story?
Yeah, this one. Yeah. No, that was a fun season of Launching Eswatini or Swaziland.
Do you do anything
like
with
turn off.
Dan Bowler King and
It's a long time.
director of, Children's Cup went through a whole.
Yeah, I don't think so now.
Bowler King's Dan's father was the leader of Children's Cup, and then his sister and his brother-in-law were, and now he's taken over and running the show.
Yeah.
And Dan,
All right. Have a good night.
oh guys,
Thanks.
Bacon.
Ready for it's over it.
Yeah.
Tired. Good luck.
Go get some sleep. Drive safe.